This is a hero magic stone that everyone dreams of, but this man holds 7 of them in his hands. It turns out he is the strongest sword god from a destroyed world. The world I lived in was invaded by monsters. Because of this I had to fight against the monsters, spending my whole life fighting monsters in order to survive. It was the same day after day, month after month, and year after year. Soon, 10 years passed like nothing, and I became the strongest sword god in the world. But in the final decisive battle against the ultimate boss, the mastermind behind the monsters, although I successfully defeated the final boss, my body was already battered and exhausted. Before losing consciousness, I felt myself being sucked into something. At first, I thought this was death, but when I opened my eyes again, I had arrived in a vast, white space. In front of me was a boy named Seo Dojin. He was about to die, and he asked me to agree to a request of his, after which he would quietly disappear. But I refused him on the spot, because I no longer had any attachment to life. Having fought desperately for 10 years, and the only outcome was that the country I lived in was destroyed, my friends died, and my family was gone. No matter how I continued to live, it turned out that everything I had done was for nothing. But seeing Seo Dojin's appearance, I still couldn't harden my heart, and I agreed to his request to give his grandmother and younger sister a better home. After waking up, I had already become Seo Dojin in the modern day. To earn money to buy the safest house, I decided to enter a B-rank gate, forcibly intruding as a non-hero. After coming inside, I encountered a few people. Judging from my attire, they also realized I was not a hero, and suggested that I should come with them to leave this place. I knew they were considering my well-being, but I told them that I did not need their help. Seeing my arrogant attitude, it greatly dissatisfied them. However, the leader commanded his subordinates to calm down. They understood that a person like me has to learn about this merciless world through experience. Subsequently, deep in the forest, I encountered the first monster. The bloodthirsty monster swung a club at me. My figure flashed, arriving behind the monster, and with one punch, I blew up the monster's head. Even after 10 years, it seems like nothing has changed. Afterwards, I rummaged through the monster's corpse for a while, digging out a low-grade magic stone. Such low-grade trash that I wouldn't even glance at normally. I had no choice but to take now. At this moment, I noticed a movement behind me. Several monsters appeared behind me, preparing to attack me. I merely bent down and dodged the oncoming strike. Then I used the magic stone in my hand, threw it with force, and blew up the head of one of the monsters. But these monsters did not fear death at all, continuing to charge at me fearlessly. At the same time, because of my unauthorized intrusion, agents from the control center were rushing over. They were all elites of B rank or above. At this moment, the battle was almost over. With a final finishing blow, I had added 3 more magic stones to my collection. Just as I was preparing to leave carrying a backpack full of magic stones, these agents finally found me. They stopped me and demanded that I show my hero registration ID, and stated that if I wasn't registered, I had to come with them. However, I was unable to understand what they were talking about. Seeing that I had no intention of cooperating, they planned to use physical force, and warned me that if I resisted, any resulting physical injuries would be entirely my responsibility. Seeing this, I backhandedly grabbed that person's hand, warned them to stop bothering me, and told them to roll back to where they came from. Seeing this, the agents took out their weapons, preparing to use force against me. I could clearly tell that their magic weapons were a rank 4 magic seal, strong enough to deal with orcs, but it was not enough to handle me. I stated that this was my final warning. If they didn't want to get hurt, they should go back. However, they didn't listen to me. The agents began to attack, but I effortlessly blocked each one. After dodging a kick to my head, I counterattacked with an E-strike, launching an agent away, and following up with a back kick to another one. Seeing his companion being dealt with by me so easily, one of the agents was so scared that he was drenched in cold sweat. At this time, I also turned around to look at him. In the next second, my figure disappeared from where I stood. Instantly, this agent's abdomen had taken a punch from me. His body staggered back a few steps, and his face was filled with disbelief regarding my strength. Seeing as he was the only one left, I gathered information from him. It turns out that if one is a registered hero, they are allowed to enter the gates perfectly fine. But hearing me ask about rift zones, the agent was shocked. In this world, passageways through which otherworldly monsters travel to get here opened up all over the globe. Hunting monsters here allows one to obtain magic stones, which serve as the country's new energy source. Therefore, the country has completely controlled the passageways. The places where monsters are trapped are called gates, while the areas that have not yet been transformed into gates are called rift zones. It turns out that if it was a gate, the agents will always get dispatched to capture an unregistered hero, but the agent realized that instead I would soon go into rift zones instead of gates to avoid the control center's agents, and advised me not to do anything reckless. After learning about what I wanted to know, I ignored the agent's warnings. After leaving this place on my own, I planned to sell the magic stones I had on me, so I randomly found a shop and poured out the magic stones from my backpack. Looking at the magic stones that were still stained with blood, the shop assistant looked disgusted, but he still asked me to wait on the side and offered me some coffee. A moment later, the price of these magic stones was calculated by him, but he wanted to charge a 40% processing fee. With such a high fee, I began to complain. At this time, the shop assistant changed his expression, arrogantly telling me that if I didn't want to sell, I could take them back. I immediately gathered the magic stones funds back into my bag, but suddenly my hand was held down by the shop assistant. He told me to pay a sorting fee, wanting to charge me 300,000 and an additional 10,000 for the coffee. I shook off his hand and told him to come and take it if he had the capability. Seeing this, the shop assistant's attitude became even more arrogant, threatening me that there were several C-rank heroes backing him up. After saying that, a few hulking men opened the door and walked in, asking the shop assistant who was causing trouble here. As he spoke, his eyes met mine. Before long, the shop assistant was hiding under the counter, shivering, because I easily dealt with the several C-rank heroes he called over. I walked up to the shop assistant again, stating that the processing fee would be 1% and that we would have smooth transactions like this from now on. Subsequently, I returned home with a stack of money. Grandmother and my younger sister, Yunying, looked at it with disbelief, even asking me what kind of money this was. I had no choice but to make up a lie randomly to gloss over it, and fortunately, grandmother still believed my lie. Conversely, Yunying, who was still young, didn't have that many complex thoughts. Brother, are we rich people now? I rubbed her little head and told her that we would be in the future. This made the little one so happy that she danced around the house. I silently watched all this, finding that things being like this now was actually quite nice. But to buy the safest house in Country K, this income was still too slow. If my powers were restored, this amount of money would be nothing. Furthermore, the monsters in this world are much weaker than those in the world I used to live in that was destroyed. To me, who was a sword god, it was like children playing house here. But right now, not even 1/10 of my power had recovered. Suddenly, knocking on the door outside interrupted my thoughts. I went ahead and volunteered to answer the call. After opening the door, I found 2 debt collection minions. I knew they were here to collect a debt because the previous CO Dojin, for grandmother's medical expenses, had borrowed from a loan shark, but the amount had multiplied tenfold in a short period of time. Facing these people, I couldn't even be bothered to waste my breath. With one punch, I sent one of the minions flying outward, because just the money repaid during this period had long exceeded the principal. Now, it should be me collecting the money instead. Looking at my appearance, the minion trembled in fear. I raised my fist and told him to tell their boss that I would go find him before long. At this moment, I had taken out Yunying out to the mall. Looking at the plush dolls displayed on the counter, Yunying squealed with joy, because I now share CO Dojin's memories. My dried up and cold-hearted emotions actually changed. I felt compassion for CO Dojin's half-sister, Yunying, but in the end, due to the expensive price, Yunying chose a small one. Seeing this, I directly took out the large bear doll. Although Yunying didn't say it, I knew this was the one she liked. Afterwards, I also took Yunying to eat burgers and fries. Just as we were enjoying our happy time, an extremely disgusting voice sounded behind us. Isn't this CO Dojin? What kind of trash are you wearing? All tattered and torn. Who's that next to you? Did you cause trouble like your mom? Hearing this, the atmosphere became very heavy. Meanwhile, Yunying didn't even know who this person was. Could it be that you were Yunying? Your clothes look pathetic, just like your mother. Do you know what the word whore means? Hearing this, I finally couldn't hold back and cursed. You orc like wench. It turns out that CO Dojin was born as an illegitimate child and lived a life of poverty. His mother died when he was 7, and he barely managed to go to his biological father's house, living in discrimination and neglect for over 10 years. Ever since his biological father's legal wife gave birth to a son, he was thoroughly kicked out soon enough, and so he began living at his maternal grandmother's house with his half-sister, whom he met for the first time. CO Dojin, what kind of heart did you have to endure all this? But with me here, things will be different now. Standing up, I unleashed a barrage of verbal attacks at this wench. From her appearance, personality, and even dumb brain, she was absolutely worthless in my eyes. Just as this wench was about to lash out, another woman suddenly appeared. Dojin, long time no see. Seeing this, the wench immediately ran over. Mom, do you know what that bastard said to me? But her mother scolded. Be quiet, don't act so uncivilized and stay out of this. Then she greeted me with a very gentle attitude. This hypocritical woman who was the person who tortured CO Dojin the most over the past 12 years. It was none other than CO Dojin's stepmother, Hong Hee-ju. I gave her absolutely no face at all, telling her to get lost from my sight. She obviously didn't expect me to have this kind of attitude, quickly turning around and retreating. In her memory, CO Dojin was clearly the kind of guy who would bow his head even if he was slapped in the face for no reason. She didn't have any intention of continuing to entangle with me and quickly left the place. Everyone had to know that the CO Dojin who was quiet while being mistreated was now gone. While in the car, the wench still complained about why her mother didn't teach CO Dojin a severe lesson. Hong Hee-ju ignored her, but instead asked Chief Lee in the front why CO Dojin was still alive. Chief Lee stated he received a report saying that Kang Chulwo had left CO Dojin at the Rift Zone. Hong Hee-ju let out a roar of anger, ordering Chief Lee to investigate this matter clearly. The wench, her daughter, began to question what her mother was scheming. Hearing this, Hong Hee-ju grabbed her own daughter's mouth. This is something your mother will handle, so stay out of it. Thinking of how I dared to talk back to her, Hong Hee-ju wanted to eliminate me even more. The next day, I arrived at a loan company. I came here to meet the boss of the debt collectors and make him compensate me for the mental damage fees they caused me during this period. Huang Changseep noticed my personality had completely changed. Thinking I had awakened inside the gate, he believed that this is what gave such confidence. He arrogantly told me that even if I awakened, I was nothing but D-rank trash, and he had plenty of that kind of trash working under him. Seeing Huang Changseep starting to leave, I spoke up again. Sit down. I haven't finished speaking yet. Hearing my arrogance, the burly men were about to make a move on me, but my speed was faster. With one punch smashing into a subordinate's face, I directly sent him flying out. I know you guys don't just give out high-interest loans. You also forge ID cards. Is that right? If I want to make money in the future, I need a hero registration ID. Soon, all of the subordinates were beaten to the ground. Make a flawless one for me immediately. I want to see it before tomorrow. After seeing my strength, Huang Changseep was drenched in cold sweat. Seeing this display of power, he believed that I was a B-rank hero. His attitude immediately changed, agreeing to the matters I assigned. However, I still had one thing to ask him. Did Hong Heju ordered you to kill me? Huang Changseep obviously didn't want to answer my question. Seeing this, I applied a forceful pinch to his shoulder, instantly making him scream in pain, and only then did he answer my question, confessing that Hong Heju hoped I would be heavily in debt and then go commit suicide on my own volition. What do you mean by suicide? Didn't you trap me inside a gate? But he claimed that he didn't know anything about this matter. If you died, I wouldn't get my money, so it wouldn't make sense to send you there. Seeing as he didn't look like he was lying, I ordered him to find out everything they can about Kang Chulwu, the man who dragged me into the gate. After this matter, I finally turned and left. The next day, I received my forged B-rank hero registration ID. However, the recommended level for this B-rank gate was actually an A-rank hero, causing the gate to continuously issue warnings that I was below the recommended rank. This was indeed the case. This B-rank gate was difficult to solo clear if you weren't an A-rank, because in this gate, you'll have to face hundreds of monsters alone in a narrow tunnel. However, I was already prepared for this and equipped my gauntlet weapons. The snakes began their assault on me, but with a flash, I severed their magic stones from their bodies easily. Just then, the snakes showed their venomous teeth. I knew that these were black fang snakes, whose venom can paralyze a person with just a graze. At this moment, I landed strongly on the ground, preparing to launch myself once again, and with a twist of my foot, I instantly attacked the black fang snake multiple times, cutting it in half. But at this moment, I noticed something on my gauntlets. It turns out that I was protected from the venom thanks to my gauntlets, making it feel like it was worth my purchase. Just then, the rest of the black fang snakes charged towards me. However, they were no match for me, each of them getting torn to shreds, until finally, I cleared all the black fang snakes. But upon inspections, there were not a lot of magic stones. I realized that it was the same as the world I lived in before, where the chance of magic stones dropping from a black fang snake is less than 3%, and so, I decided to walk towards the newly opened doors. Arriving to the next room, there were many skeletons littering the floor. I quickly realized the situation is that the boss of this gate in front of me was a fiercer-looking giant black fang snake. But to me, this was actually very convenient. I thought about finishing this immediately to head back home early as I swung my fist and smashed it down. Surprisingly, my fists was repelled. It turns out that my fists were ineffective against it. At this moment, the boss was already attacking me, blasting me away to the ground, crashing into a nearby wall. Taking this opportunity, the boss attacked me once again. However, I managed to dodge its deadly bite. Instantly, I tried to counter-attack as well, cracking its hard outer shell with a strong strike, but this was still not enough. Its skin was so tough that my punches aren't even effective. Just as I was feeling a headache over this, I shockingly discovered a dilapidated sword under my feet. Although it was a bit old, borrowing it temporarily was absolutely no problem. The boss charged at me with its open mouth one more time, but in the next second, my figure flashed, arriving behind the boss. As I slashed down with a sword strike, the boss was instantly defeated in a golden light, and at the same time, that old sword also shattered. After collecting the valuable things from its body, I immediately began leaving the gate. By the time I came out, it was already nighttime. To me, conquering a B-rank gate like this actually wasted so much time, because recovering my power is currently the highest priority. Fortunately, my former comrades didn't have to see my current state. At this moment, at the shop I previously went to, the shop assistant wanted to charge his customer the regular 40% processing fee. The customer complained, but it turns out that this shop actually was relatively cheap compared to the others, so the customer couldn't help but agree. Just then, the customer noticed the shop assistant's condition. Hearing that he was terrorized, the customer offered his help in return of the good service. As he was leaving, I had actually walked past him. It's him. It was that guy that beat me up. Is that the case? Just then, the customer tried to threaten me. Were you the one that caused a disturbance here? It turns out that this customer was a 7-year veteran hero. However, I just dismissed him. Mind your own business and get lost. This response greatly shocked the customer. Are you going to take revenge for this guy or something? Hearing this, the customer was already furious with my arrogance. However, the customer suddenly remembered that the leading cause of death for heroes isn't monsters. It was accidental disputes with another hero. Thanks to his 7-year veteran intuition, the customer backed off and bid his farewells. Seeing this, the shop assistant was awkwardly silent. So it seems like you have a lot of complaints about me. Just then, I just threw the bag of magic stones at the shop assistant. It turns out that this bag was full to the brim with magic stones. It made the shop assistant wonder just what kind of person was I. After calculating, the shop assistant declared that it was worth 150 50 million. We must deduct the commission. However, my deathly gaze interrupted him. I suddenly remembered that there was indeed a 1% commission as previously agreed upon, so I would actually receive 148.5 million instead. The shop assistant still wanted to charge a 40% processing fee, but didn't dare to say it out loud to me. However, the transaction amount this time was too high, and he had to get permission from his superiors. Just as he was halfway through speaking, his phone was snatched away by me. I asked the person on the phone to quickly give the money if they understood clearly. The person on the phone said they tentatively understood and wanted me to hand the phone back. Hearing this, I directly threw the phone with great force. With a bang, the phone became embedded in the wall, and subsequently, I had a straightforward transaction with the shop assistant. Finally, I could leave the store fully content with the smooth transaction. Later, someone had arrived to the shop. It was the boss that rushed over. Just what was that call earlier? And why aren't you answering your phone anymore? However, the shop assistant told the boss he wanted to resign. He couldn't handle this anymore. Seeing the scene inside the shop, the boss, OJ&A, then made a phone call. "It's me. I need you to come over now." This purple-haired lady was none other than Hyun Ju-yeon. Soon, she appeared at the shop entrance. Seeing the newcomer, the shop assistant screamed with excitement. It turns out that this Hyun Ju-yeon was the 4th S-rank hero of Country K, and that she was actually the boss's niece. Her purpose for coming here was because she heard her uncle say someone was threatening the store, so she wanted to come and understand the situation. At this moment, I was back at my house. Currently, I was deep in thought while meditating. I realized that progression was too slow, because the mana in this world was far too thin. Even if I gathered mana like this every day, it would take 3 years or perhaps longer to recover my power. The only substitute would be good equipment, but even that is rare. At this moment, I suddenly detected an anomaly. I immediately grabbed Yunying and sent her back inside the house. Seeing this, grandmother asked me what was wrong. Before I had time to answer, violent tremors came from the ground. I knew this was not an earthquake, because in the sky, cracks started to appear. A rift had actually developed just above our house. I told grandmother it was dangerous and not to come out of the room, and I immediately plunged headfirst into the rift space. At the exact same time, the Hero Association also detected the new rift. They immediately dispatched nearby heroes to head to the location of the new rift. But what gave them a headache was that the rift appeared in a private residential area, because if someone enters the rift, entry is not allowed until they come out again. Additionally, if the people that entered end up dying, the rift zone would unleash a 10-day monster wave. Very quickly, they confirmed the news that someone had entered the new rift. It was a civilian named Seo Dojin. Regarding this, they all began to worry, because the probability of a normal person entering a new rift and causing a monster wave was 99.9%. At the same time, Hong Heeju's side also learned the news of Seo Dojin's awakening, which made Hong Heeju extremely furious. She told Chief Lee to contact Kang Chulwo. If he failed to kill Seo Dojin, she would make him compensate 10 times the money. At this time, Chief Lee told her that there was no need to contact Kang Chulwo anymore, because Chief Lee confidently knew that Seo Dojin had entered the new rift. It was absolutely impossible for him to come out, so they would never see Seo Dojin again. As for me, after entering the new rift, I arrived at a forest. Looking at everything in front of me, it was simply unbelievable to me. This was actually the Petishua forest I often visited when I was young. Everything here, including the mana in the atmosphere, and even the shapes of the sky and clouds, were exactly the same. Based on my memory, I found a small path. After going out, I saw the world tree. This was the primordial spirit tree that preserved the flow of high purity mana. The reason my former world was destroyed was that the trees were burned down, causing the flow of mana to be disrupted. The world tree here still existed. Although I didn't understand the reason, I could use this to regain the mana from back then. Thinking this, I began to gather the mana of the world tree. As the days passed one by one, I even forgot to eat and drink, focusing on my breathing continuously for 10 days. Just at this moment, I noticed a movement. It was actually the Vulcans. In the past, the ones who burned down the world tree were these guys. Looking at the Vulcans attacking towards me, it would be great if I had a water attribute sword at this moment, but it didn't matter. I'm going to crush all of you anyway. Thinking this, I raised my hand, and a surge of azure mana flew out, instantly shattering a Vulcan. This technique involves releasing and detonating gathered mana in the form of aura. I hadn't released such a massive amount of mana in a long time, which made me feel a burst of refreshment. At this time, the Vulcans continued to attack me. I didn't make any evasive maneuvers, and the attacks landing on my body had no effect whatsoever. This just confirms the safety of the world tree. Next, I also wanted to confirm the mana in my body with my own eyes. Suddenly, my figure flashed, and I pressed down on 2 Vulcans' mouths. In the next second, the heads of the 2 Vulcans exploded with a clap. Immediately, their lifeless bodies fell, and the magic stones dropped to the ground as their corpses disintegrated. I was in no rush to pick up the dropped magic stones, because I remembered that eliminating these Vulcans could yield undying embers, and the drop rate was actually quite high, so I decided to find out how many I could get this time. Thinking this, I launched a one-sided slaughter. Before long, all the Vulcans had been killed by me. I picked up a golden stone from the ground. This was the undying ember, and I didn't expect I could obtain this again. Crushing the undying ember in my hand, its mana began to manifest at my palms. I really wanted to continue absorbing the mana from the world world tree, but with my current body, absorbing more of the world tree's mana would be too much to bear. The only thing I could do right now was to absorb the undying embers to change my mana into the fire attribute. As the embers were absorbed by me, the mana on my body also turned yellow. In the past, I would never have bothered to absorb these embers, but now, absorbing this would actually take 10 whole minutes. I swung my arms to examine the results, and looking at the remaining undying embers on the ground, I would absorb as many as I could for now. Meanwhile, the outside had already descended into complete chaos, and there were even reporters broadcasting the news of the new rift here. As an S-rank hero, Bang Songwoo had already grown impatient from waiting. Kim Hyunwoo reported that the people outside all said Seo Dojin went in to save his younger sister. Bang Songwoo believed Seo Dojin must have listened to the rumors that it's easy to awaken in the rift zones, and then barged in without caring whether others lived or died. Because of this, they were ordered to wait and observe by their guild master, causing them to wait here miserably for the monster wave to arrive. As it turns out, new rifts had occurred in many countries at the same time. This was the first time this instance had occurred. However, the other countries were able to control the situation while it was still early. What made Bang Songwoo so furious is that only they were the ones that had not yet controlled the situation. This made Bang Songwoo angrier the more he thought about it, thinking that if that bastard came out, he absolutely had to smash his face in. The time quickly reached 28 days. The Hero Association had already preemptively issued a level 1 monster wave warning, stating that a certain Mr. S who entered the rift had still come out. Watching the reports in the news, Hwang Chang-seep knew that Mr. S was Seo Dojin. This was confirmed by his right-hand man, Kim Myung-gu, but Hwang Chang-seep realized that the Hero Association's intel was lacking, because he knew Seo Dojin had awakened. Still, Kim Myung-gu reported coming out of the rift alive would still be difficult for an awakened. Therefore, he planned to detain Seo Dojin's grandmother and younger sister. They would keep them well fed and safe for now. If Seo Dojin died, he would sell his family's organs, but if Seo Dojin came out alive, then it would create a debt. Meanwhile, inside the rift space, I no longer knew how much time had passed. Hundreds of undying embers had all been completely absorbed by me. Now I can freely use fire attribute mana, and my fire resistance has also received a monumental enhancement. Speaking solely of the fire attribute, I am now even stronger than when I was known as the Sword God. Looking at this towering giant tree, whether in the past or present, I am very grateful to the world tree. Although I may never see you again, if we ever reunite and you are in danger, I will definitely fight with everything I have to protect you. Immediately after I came out of the rift space, I sensed my surroundings and found there was no sign of life within a 1-kilometer radius. They must have all evacuated to prepare for the monster wave. But in one direction, there was a slightly stronger aura, so I rushed over, planning to investigate. I found it was 2 tall men. I knew their attire. They were people from the Hero Association, like the agents from before. If they discovered me, it would be very troublesome. I gathered a surge of fire attribute mana in my hands, and forcefully threw it out. The target was the roof of a distant building. Instantly, a burst of fiery explosion erupted on the roof. This commotion instantly attracted the attention of the two. They immediately ran over to check. Looking at the raging fire in front of them, the two had no idea what the situation was, or why it suddenly caught fire. Meanwhile, I was quite satisfied with the accuracy of this single shot of flame. This reminded me of my old comrade, Cusack, because he was the continent's strongest flame mage. Just then, Bang Songwoo and Kim Myung-gu sensed that something was wrong, and the two immediately realized that there was something strange with the rift. When the two ran back again, they were greatly shocked in disbelief. The rift was actually slowly disappearing. Meanwhile, I had already taken the opportunity to leave this place long ago. The next day, the news truthfully reported this incident. Although it was very strange why a monster wave didn't occur, everyone believed I had died inside. Today, I once again came to Hwang Chang-seep's loan company. After coming in, I happened to hear 2 minions discussing my matters. That guy is dead, and that old lady and the little brat are surely finished too. When that little girl grows up a bit more, I think she'll turn out quite pretty. The boss must also be plotting how to bring her over to play with. At this moment, my appearance interrupted their conversation. Where did your boss go? At this time, Hwang Chang-seep, who thought I was dead, felt extremely refreshed today. Just as he entered the company, he heard a strange noise, and a minion flew out of the company. Hwang Chang-seep looked like he saw a ghost. Instantly, I threw him to the ground. No one even dared to make a move while I was here. Crawl over here like a dog. Hwang Chang-seep was scared into a cold sweat and could only follow my instructions. I didn't want to treat him as a human being at all, and told him to continue barking like a dog. People like you may act like loyal followers, but the moment one shows weakness, they immediately stab you in the back. This isn't the first time I dealt with bastards like you. Hwang Chang-seep tried to beg me to spare his life, but I just kicked him in the face instead. I originally wanted to let Kim Myung-gu on the side become the boss in the future. He didn't deserve to be loyal to a bastard like Hwang Chang-seep, but this Kim Myung-gu was very stubborn, stating that their boss had a wide network of contacts, and if he suddenly became the boss, there will be people that would find it very strange. Please don't do this. Spare our boss just this once. Stuff him in an iron barrel and throw him into the sea. Aren't you guys very professional at this kind of thing? If you don't want to do it, I can also throw him into a gate to feed the monsters. Hearing my words, everyone broke out in a cold sweat, and Hwang Changseep's pleas for mercy became even more intense. As long as I spared his life, he was willing to serve me like a dog for the rest of his life. I deeply knew that only by disposing of Huang Changseep here could I eliminate future troubles, but for some reason, it seems like my heart had actually become soft, so I extended my hand towards Huang Changseep. Huang Changseep thought I had spared him, and gladly extended his hand. Suddenly, a burst of flames wrapped around his hand, and in just an instant, Huang Changseep's hand was burned away entirely. I walked away as Huang Changseep screamed in pain. If my family is harmed by a single hair, all of you will die. Use the rest of your lives to protect them responsibly, 24 hours a day. And so, officially, Seo Dojin was a being that had vanished along with the rift. Everyone was already treating me as if I was dead, so even if I said I came back alive, it would be controversial, but I could rest easy knowing Huang Changseep would be finding us a new house to live in. This was something that made Yunying very happy. I told Yunying that she can even attend kindergarten now, but Yunying told me that the other kids there always mocked her for having no mom and dad. Regarding this, I didn't force Yunying either, planning to directly send her to school next year. Just then, Yunying asked if I was a hero. I wondered if she would like it if I was a hero, but Yunying said she didn't want her brother to be a hero because she heard that heroes fight terrifying monsters, and sometimes they even die. She only hoped to live a long and enduring life together with grandmother and her brother. Hearing these words couldn't help but make me think of that cruel past world where the last human to survive was me. I lost many things while fighting those monsters, but now, something precious I had forgotten has actually come back to me now. If it is here, it seems I can protect this small happiness and live on. Meanwhile, on the side of the Hero Association, president of the Heroes Association, Na Taewon, was feeling depressed over a certain matter because they had not yet found out the reason for the rift disappearing. This meant that one day it would also appear out of nowhere. This Na Taewon was one of the 100 most respected heroes in the world, that if he ran for president, he would surely win. However, his interests are simple: the sole safety of the people and preparing for rifts. He ordered his subordinates to carefully investigate it again thoroughly. This kind of rift had also simultaneously occurred in other countries. Na Taewon felt things were not as simple as it seems, as other countries had already entered the containment phase. But the problem was Country E, because their heroes were dispatched to the other countries. Suddenly, upon receiving a piece of news, Na Taewon's eyes widened. Country E experienced a wave of rift outbreaks. At this moment, on the streets of the downtown area, I was walking slowly towards the exchange shop I had visited before. The bell outside the door rang and swayed, just as the shop assistant was about to voice his welcome, when he suddenly revealed a look of terror, and immediately called for help from the manager reading a newspaper next to him. The manager next to him leisurely put down the newspaper in his hands. "Is it you, Brad, who is forcefully scamming us when I'm not here? There are a lot of magic stones that need to be processed today. I was just thinking it would be good to have someone with a higher position here." The man looked at the backpack on the ground and voiced his refusal, thinking I had brought some unprocessed low-grade stones again like last time. "Are you refusing to trade? You seem to still not understand the situation. With a 1% processing fee, we will lose all our capital. I won't make a deal with you again, so take your stuff and go. You're going to regret it. Even the central gates require a 5% processing fee." He immediately turned his head and told me never to come back again. But I didn't care at all, and merely opened the backpack gently. Dozens of high-level magic stones slowly rolled out of the backpack. Both the shop assistant and the manager were instantly shocked. "How is this possible? Why is it here?" "The legendary, priceless hero magic stone. Since you don't need them, forget it then." It turns out the hero magic stone became famous when a famous drug lord decomposed a special mana stone while producing drugs. Unexpectedly, he had actually stimulated the power within it to achieve an awakening. Ever since then, this type of magic stone became infamous. It was both a rare energy source and an ultra-luxury item. Amidst their shocked gazes, I unceremoniously told them to pack up the magic stones and prepared to leave. The manager began to call me a customer and asked me to sit down first. The shop assistant on the side had no choice but to slowly wipe the magic stones in his hands. I drank the cold beverage in my hand and listened to his explanation. "Don't you think a 0.5% commission is a little too low?" But I stood up and threatened to leave. The man could only continuously lower his conditions, until finally, I once again agreed to the previous 1% as the processing fee. However, upon hearing I had 7 more bags like the one offered, the manager was once again full of life, ordering the shop assistant to immediately get the contract. I looked at the deposit information displayed on my phone. At this rate, a house worth 110 billion might not be far away, but the problem now is how to acquire more high-level magic stones because the gates are not nearly enough. If only I could freely travel through the rifts. Just at this moment, all mobile phones simultaneously received an emergency notification. I scanned the emergency notification on the screen. Did the rifts in Country E lose control? I stared intently at the emergency broadcast in my hands, disappointment involuntarily welling up in my heart. This kind of situation really seemed pathetic. If it were in the past, no matter where I was, I would spare no effort to stop the appearance of the rifts. But in this life, I live only for myself. The steak on the grill sizzled, and the aroma of the sear wafted through the air. Eun-young was already drooling with greed, yet grandmother was still hesitating over the prices on the menu. I simply gestured gestured for her to relax, informing her that I had already made a lot of money. Young, beside me, couldn't wait to pop a piece of roasted meat into her mouth, her eyes instantly filling with surprise and satisfaction. At this moment, the family sat around in the barbecue restaurant, with continuous laughter and cheerful voices. Just then, an eye-catching figure passed through the bustling crowd. She stopped just behind me and called out, "Seo Dojin, may I have a word with you?" Before her words were finished, I interrupted her. "Can't you see I'm eating with my family? If you have something to say, wait until we finish our meal." The woman fell into silence. "I am the S-class hero Hyun Juyeon. When have I ever met a man with such an attitude?" With no choice, she agreed to it. In the restaurant's waiting area, Hyun Juyeon sat quietly. The people around murmured in low voices, "That's Hyun Juyeon, right? S-rank hero, global superstar Hyun Juyeon." The crowd cast curious glances, guessing who it was that could actually make Hyun Juyeon wait here. This Seo Dojin, surviving after entering that gate for the first time 2 months ago. It is suspected that he should have awakened at that time, yet the authorities claimed he died in this rift incident. This person who can make an S-rank hero like herself feel nervous with just a look, and someone who has only awakened for 2 months can truly reach S-rank? He must have acquired some kind of special ability. The wooden door of the barbecue restaurant was pushed open. "Thanks for the meal." I turned my head to look at Hyun Juyeon, only to see a figure blocking my way. My gaze instantly sharpened. The newcomer was actually Kang Chulwoo. "I'm not seeing things, am I? How did you come out of that gate? I originally thought you were just a bug. I didn't expect you to be a cockroach." Hyun Juyeon, upon seeing Kang Chulwoo, was completely shocked, but I completely ignored him and just asked Hyun Juyeon, "Didn't you have something to discuss with me?" "Hyun Juyeon, what is the meaning of this? We'll talk about your matter later. Help me take care of my family first. Send them back with a taxi. I still have a score to settle." Outside the barbecue restaurant, Hyun Juyeon escorted Yunying and grandmother into the car, waving them goodbye as the taxi drives away. Meanwhile, with just slightly raising my hand, the man's face instantly swelled red. Kang Chulwoo erupted in anger. "You damn bug." A waitress from the restaurant heard the noise and wanted to mediate, but was slapped to the ground by Kang Chulwoo. "All of you get the hell out. You son of a bitch. Are you looking for death?" Before his words faded, my palm thrust forward like a sharp sword, and terrifying force smashed into his face. Kang Chulwoo covered his face and knelt on the ground. I clenched my fists, and killing intent suddenly dispersed. "Kang Chulwoo, you were the one who threw me into the gate and left me to die, right? Considering this, we have a lot to talk about. A little bastard abandoned by his biological father. It was your stepmother who told me to kill you. I paid it no mind, simply taking out my phone to open the voice recorder. Perhaps you can say that again." Hearing this, he bit his mouth full of sharp teeth tightly. Suddenly, flames ignited on his fists. "What do I need to say again? That your mother is a whore, right? This is where you die, Seo Dojin." I raised my palm to block the incoming fiery fist of Kang Chulwoo, and with the man a barrier like from before, his fist was directly deflected away. Realizing this, Kang Chulwoo was absolutely stunned. Before he could react, the condensed mana in my hand erupted like a strong wind. In an instant, he was sent flying away. The moment he landed, I leaped through the air like a predator. The fierce fighting caused the waitress to dial her phone with trembling hands. When it rang, it was immediately taken away. It was Hyun Juyeon, who smiled and reassured her. "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything." Although the waitress was uneasy, she still expressed her gratitude. Meanwhile, Kang Chulwoo was helpless against my barrage of strikes. Seeing this scene, Hyun Juyeon sighed. Kang Chulwoo is also a B-rank hero, yet he has completely no power to fight back under Seo Dojin's hands. Is his strength at A rank or above? But could an A rank abuse a B rank like this? Just then, she called out my name once again. "Mr. Seo Dojin, if this continues, you might kill him." I cast a slight glance, then slowly shook my hand, which had been too intense just now. "How much do you know about Kang Chulwoo? Is that really important?" She let out a long sigh. "Of course it is, because Kang Chulwoo's older brother is the S-rank hero Kang Yanpyo. However, I already knew this fact, which shocked Hyun Juyeon. Knowing this clearly, yet he is still putting on an attitude like nothing matters. This man is too reckless." Just then, she issued a warning. "The reason Kang Chulwoo has been able to be arrogant until now is all because he has his older brother protecting him from behind. It means your actions right now is truly very dangerous." I did not explain much, only smiling indifferently. "Are you not afraid of him?" Just then, I spoke up. "More importantly, the fact that you know so much about me is starting to actually bother me." Saying this, I gave a deathly glare towards Hyun Juyeon, and she knew that she had been discovered. Hyun Juyeon explained that she had come entrusted by her uncle, wanting to buy all the magic stones in my possession. Looking at her serious expression, I stated that there was more that she could ever expect. "The wealth of an S-rank hero is much greater than you imagine. However, it's just that I have one condition, a condition that you, Hyun Juyeon, can accomplish with ease." Meanwhile, a wine bottle was smashed onto the ground. It was my stepmother, Hong Heeju, complaining loudly. "Why? Didn't you say he already died in the rift?" Facing the smashing wine bottle, Chief Lee did not dodge at all. Even the Hero Association believed he was dead. "Don't give me these excuses. How do you plan to handle this matter?" According to a new report, Kang Chulwoo has already been defeated by Seo Dojin. Perhaps he has already learned something from Kang Chulwoo. The woman's face instantly darkened. "If this matter reaches my father's or my husband's ears, it will become very troublesome. I'll need to cover it up properly." The woman ordered Chief Lee to make absolutely absolutely sure those news media shut their mouths. Obviously, he had already handled this matter and reported accordingly. The woman let out a sigh of relief and praised him. But you also know this is not a fundamental solution, which is why I came to report to you. Kang Chul's older brother is Kang Yangpyo. Are you talking about the S-rank hero Kang Yangpyo? It turns out Kang Chul was a notorious scumbag in the hero world. Although rumors outside said Kang Yangpyo cares for Kang Chul extremely, in reality, Kang Chul was nothing more than a tool specifically used to do various dirty deeds for Kang Yangpyo. Therefore, if Kang Chul was targeted by the police or the media, it would be detrimental to Kang Yangpyo, and their side would definitely take action. Since that's the case, then arrange for me to meet him. Also, Wang Changseep of HCS Capital has supposedly betrayed us as well. Contact Prosecutor Park immediately. We must make them pay the price for abandoning us. At this moment, in front of a gate, Hyun Ju-yeon was leading a party. It turns out that currently, there are 37 known rifts discovered in South Korea. Among them, 5 are being turned into gates, and the remaining rift zones can only be hunted and through negotiation by heroes affiliated with the Hero Association. Just then, the agents confirmed Hyun Ju-yeon's identity. Subsequently, Hyun Ju-yeon's group slowly walked towards the rift entrance. Meanwhile, I noted that even Hyun Ju-yeon's identity would be thoroughly verified, and on top of that, there was only one entrance to this place. The A-rank hero, Guildmaster Jong In-ju, was intrigued. It's rare for our Captain Yun to propose wanting to go hunting in a rift. I have free time anyway, so I might as well do something for fun. From the corner of her eye, she scanned me at the back of the team, and couldn't help recalling the condition I proposed earlier. Take me into a rift, and I will sell all the magic stones in my possession to you at market price. She wondered if I had gone crazy for such a reason, but even if it wasn't her uncle's favor, she also needed hero magic stones. Who is that man? Is he a candidate to be your boyfriend? Hyun Ju-yeon helplessly explained that she just owed me some favors. Can S-rank heroes owe favors too? At this time, everyone in the team seemed to have noticed something. Quickly assuming defensive positions to meet the danger, they saw a cockatrice with claws sharp as metal swooping straight at them. Jong In-ju loudly proclaimed that it was a cockatrice. Hyun Ju-yeon hurriedly started commanding everyone. Without waiting for anyone in the team to react, I struck at the cockatrice like a hunting leopard. Everyone cried out in shock. In an instant, massive mana converged toward my fist. Eternal flames ignited in my hand, striking directly at the cockatrice's skull. With just one strike, the cockatrice smashed heavily into the ground. Everyone was captivated by my figure. I looked at the paralyzed, dead monster in front of me. I raised my leg and delivered another kick. What kind of person is that guy? Hyun Ju-yeon was already shocked. He's just a powerful person. Jong In-ju shook her neck, full of disbelief. If it's just knocking it down, couldn't you do it too, big sister? Jong In-ju made an exaggerated gesture of shock. This made Hyun Ju-yeon also start to doubt, wondering herself about what my true identity was. Big sister, maybe we should change our plan and just take a trip to the core zone. Meanwhile, I slowly thrust my dagger into the monster's abdomen. I have no desire to share the results with someone who has made zero contribution. Hyun Ju-yeon suggested that it would be better if we head deeper into the rift zone, because my abilities would be a better fit there. What met her was only a clear smile. Finally, something interesting. She turned around, stating she was very familiar with this place and could lead the way, and instantly dashed towards the depths of the rift zone. Watching her figure getting further and further away, I didn't intend to be left behind, piercing straight forward following her direction, leaving only the shattered ground. If Hyun Ju-yeon's speed at this moment was comparable to a bullet, then I was light. Guildmaster, should we follow them? Jong In-ju stated they couldn't keep up, and that they should just casually hunt for now. They looked at the corpse on the ground, involuntarily doubting their own ranks in their hearts. It turned out that an A rank was as insignificant as dust in front of an S rank. At this time, Hyun Ju-yeon ahead looked back, but couldn't see my figure. Just as she was about to slow down, I suddenly appeared behind her. Couldn't you go a little faster? A stumble almost caused her to flip onto the ground. How is this possible? Because in terms of speed, she ranked second in Country K. At this moment, I stopped next to her. I didn't expect you to be so slow. You ran like you were trying to make sure I couldn't catch up. Facing my words, her face suddenly flushed red. I looked up at the distant peaks, asking her what was over there. She then looked towards the direction I was pointing. She told me that was the lair of the boss of this rift. This was the Kazarian, a giant monster like a wyvern. According to predictions, it would take at least 3 or more S-rank heroes to kill it. Is it the one that drops imaginary grade magic stones? I took a step toward the Lord's lair. You're not really planning to go challenge it, are you? Before her words faded, only the wind waves of my dash remained beside her. Hyun Ju-yeon felt an extreme panic in her heart. Subsequently, she also ran as fast as she could, trying to stop me from my reckless behavior. When she caught up, Hyun Ju-yeon was shocked by the scene before her. So what exactly happened here just now? The giant Kazarian was collapsed on the ground. Its blood had already covered the surroundings, and I on the side was slowly pulling out my dagger, preparing to extract the magic stone. Kazarians were extremely powerful. Even the S-rank hero Park Hae-il, who became famous for hunting Kazarian, brought 30 A-rank heroes the first time he challenged Kazarian, but the resulting outcome was the death of all the A-rank heroes. He was the only one who barely escaped alive. After that, Park Hae-il once again organized one S-rank hero and 200 A-rank heroes to launch a battle of revenge. Countless abilities were unleashed upon Kazarian, yet they couldn't breach the defense of its scales at all. With just one roar, the giant Kazarian blasted everyone away on the spot. Although they eventually successfully hunted Kazarian, the sacrifice exchanged accounted for a full 90%. The mega guild he established, Sweet Life, suffered a severe blow to its strength because of this, failing to recover its former massive power even after 3 years. I turned my head to look at Hyunjuyeon. You should know that you have 0 contribution points, right? If one hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would have thought that this terrifying Kazarian couldn't even withstand one move? Meanwhile, I finally obtained the mana stone from the Kazarian. However, this one was not a regular one. I couldn't help but wonder at the sight of this. I don't need anyone to lead the way anymore. From now on I'll explore on my own. Are you not planning to take Kazarian's parts? Besides the magic stone, its other parts are also extremely precious materials. Hyunjuyeon's words made my footsteps pause. Those things are worthless to me. It's better to spend time hunting for more magic stones. I'll leave those parts to you. Treat it as your fee for leading the way. The woman looked at the massive corpse by her feet, but she decided that she didn't need these either. Later, at sunset, near the entrance of the rift, everyone gazed at the backpacks in front of them. That man just now borrowed a giant backpack, and when he came back, the backpack was stuffed full of magic stones. It's unbelievable. The amount our entire guild could collect in 3 full days can't even compare to his few hours. Just who is he? It's not just a matter of speed and harvest quantity. He had almost no equipment or combat suit, yet he defeated so many all by himself. On this point alone, no one in the entirety of Country K can do it, and maybe even in the whole world. Just as Jong In-ju was sighing from the bottom of her heart, I once again walked over slowly, carrying several bags full of magic stones. Looking at the backpacks smashing onto the ground, the team members were all astonished. Even if this was said out loud, no one would believe it. Why did he carry back so many again? Jong In-ju could only order everyone to maintain secrecy, because even if they spoke out, they would only be treated as lunatics. Without waiting for the others to react, Hyunjuyeon walked up to me and began chattering away. Seeing this, the others mistakenly assumed that we were flirting. They gossiped that maybe only a man like me is worthy of Hyunjuyeon. Jong In-ju seemed to have noticed something. There is actually someone who can treat Hyunjuyeon so unceremoniously. While they were observing, I dropped a bag full of magic stones into her hands. Under everyone's shocked gazes, I walked outwards. At this time, Jong In-ju was also puzzled as to why I just left like that. Does he not even want the magic stones in these backpacks anymore? Only then did Hyunjuyeon explain the reason. I told him that if people found out that he beat a Kazarian, he would become famous overnight. He thought being famous was troublesome, so he asked us to handle these things. Jong In-ju couldn't help but sigh, wondering how a man like me could exist in this world. Yes, how could there still be such a man in this world? At this moment, in a certain place in the downtown area of City S of Country K, a man was continuously throwing punches at a sandbag. The weight of hundreds of kilograms swayed violently in his fists and palms. The powerful fists caused the sandbag to burst open in an instant. Damn it! Would the Grand Guild Master of a large guild, S-rank hero Park Hae-yeol, actually sink to this? The assistant on the side began to bow and offer respects. As the saying goes, endure a moment's displeasure, build long-lasting glory. If you can persevere at this point in time, your reputation will inevitably soar even higher. Guild Master. That's right, I definitely have to teach those guys who look down on me a good lesson. The more suppressed power is condensed together, the more astonishing it becomes. When that time comes, let them all kneel before the Guild Master and beg for forgiveness. Besides, regarding the strategy to conquer Kazarian, no one knows it more clearly than you. In the future, you'll be known as the hero who took down a Kazarian with the least amount of people. Park Hae-yeol took the water handed to him. That is true. People who understand it as well as I do aren't that many. But compared to 3 years ago, our influence has shrunk so much. Even so, I am the only one who can fully conquer that giant monster. The assistant echoed in agreement. Exactly. Other than a rare genius like the Guild Master, perhaps no second person can achieve it. Laughter from the two of them continuously echoed in the training hall. Meanwhile, I was being presented in a report to another individual. Seo Dojin. Is it this guy? This was none other than Kang Yang-pyo, the S-rank hero, and the big brother of Kang Chulwoo. Indeed, a few months ago, Kang Chulwoo threw him into the gate, attempting to kill him. But not only did he not die, he survived, and under those circumstances, he awakened. The client is Hong Hee-ju, the executive director of T Group, and also the second daughter of W Group. But Kang Yang-pyo wondered what a rich woman like her wanted to do with a person like me. I heard Seo Dojin is an illegitimate child of T Group, taken home at age 7, but 6 years ago, after Hong Hee-ju gave birth to a son, he was kicked out. So even to their own blood, wealthy families are ruthless. So how much money did Chulwoo rake in from this order? Hearing the 3 billion from the suited man's mouth, Kang Yang-pyo couldn't help but feel disgust. He got himself crippled for just this little amount of money, to say nothing of suffering severe burns all over his body and becoming completely blind. How ruthless of this Seo Dojin. If it were me, I would have chopped off his 4 limbs and turned him into a human stick long ago. Also, there's a rumor saying Hyunjuyeon helped Seo Dojin. Why would she help him? What is their relationship? I don't know, but Hyunjuyeon has already given her testimony to the police, and only then did this matter subside calmly. Go investigate. investigate clearly for me immediately. Exactly what is their relationship? What deal do they have with each other? Understood. I will definitely investigate it clearly. However, Kang Yanpyo's anger failed to dissipate, and the golf club in his hands also succumbed to the heavy burden. Hong Heeju's side will probably come looking for me very soon, asking me to take over the mess Chul botched. But since she is a very rich madam, the money should be plentiful, right? At this time, under the streetlights, I slowly pondered today's harvest. As expected, hunting in the rifts is much more efficient than inside the gates. So in the future, will I still have to rely on Hyun Juyeon to enter and exit these rifts? Earlier, Hyun Juyeon told me that if Kazarian's magic stone is taken to be sold, the media will definitely pursue the specific details, so she did not intend to sell it for now. However, if I wanted to become famous, she wouldn't stop me. The answer she received was me tossing the magic stones into her hands immediately. Perhaps I can find another way to enter the rifts. I'll just rest well in the new house arranged for me by Hwang Chang-seop for now. Approaching the house, I suddenly saw several extra pairs of shoes by the door. Upon opening the door, Eun-young immediately called me over. I saw a group of men in suits sitting around grandmother and Eun-young. Eun-young pounced towards me in fear. The man in the lead at this time also slowly stated his identity. It turned out they were people from the city district prosecutor's office. He asked if I knew Hwang Chang-seop. There was a long silence in the room. The blonde man suddenly spoke, saying that they were now going to place me under emergency arrest on the grounds that I was suspected of participating in Hwang Chang-seop of HCS Capital's illegal high-interest loan sharking operation. At this time, at the city prosecutor's office, I sat upright in the interrogation room, my hands tightly handcuffed under the table behind me, my eyes scanning the surrounding environment. No need to worry. Currently both Hwang Chang-seop and Seo Dojin are already in my custody. I must also trouble you to send my regards to Director Hong. Cleaning up trash like these people, that is the responsibility I ought to fulfill. A stack of files was smashed heavily onto the table. Speak. Exactly what dirty business have you guys done? Based solely on the charges written here, you could sit in prison for more than 10 years. Hwang Chang-seop already confessed everything. What met him was only my silent refusal to speak. Do you think I'm joking with you? Until I finally spoke up. Was it that woman Hong Heeju who told you to do this? He began to play deaf and dumb. Who is this person named Hong Heeju? It seems like Hwang Chang-seop has already been broken. I originally followed this city prosecutor because I was afraid the matter would blow up. At this time, he finally couldn't hold back and wanted to start forcibly extracting a confession, but the killing intent radiating from my entire body caused his actions to abruptly stop. Sweat soaked the man's back, and his face was terrified. Suddenly, he extended his large hand, preparing to slap his palm towards me, but the urgent sound of the door opening silenced his actions again. Please come out for a moment and verify the information. Prosecutor Park. Impossible. Is the machine broken? It turns out that the hero detector labeled that Seo Dojin was just a civilian. The specific reason is unknown. It's also possible that there is an error in the awakening information. Just who is this guy? Why does he also know Hong Heeju's name? Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, I looked at the files in front of me. As expected, the prosecution system of this country is truly corrupt and mediocre. Perhaps I should just kill them directly and take Eun-young and grandmother to leave here. Just then, Hyun Juyeon actually entered the room. She asked in confusion why I would be here, but I told her that I also didn't know why. Make sure you don't do anything stupid. Then are you going to help me? Perhaps it doesn't count as helping. I know you didn't do anything wrong, Seo Dojin. If an innocent person is framed, this mistake must be corrected. Is that so? I revealed a cold smile. The Hero Association will definitely send someone to investigate carefully, so I'm keeping an eye out. What about my family? Do you think I'm your secretary, Seo Dojin? But what met her was my serious gaze. Looking into my eyes, she couldn't help feeling awkward, and subsequently made a guarantee that my family was fine and asked me to rest assured. Thank you for the favor. I will repay it. Her face flushed with shame, telling me to endure it for a bit first and that she would resolve this matter as soon as possible. It turns out the method Hyun Juyeon chose was not to prove Seo Dojin's innocence, but to expose prosecutor Park Cheol-young's bribery and illegal solicitation, getting him dismissed, and through a fair investigation confirming that I had nothing to do with this matter. Although the penalty for not having an ID qualification couldn't be avoided, Hyun Juyeon's active defense resulted in the case ending with just probation. At this time, the news in the car reported a new type of monster appearing in Country E, resembling a four-eyed praying mantis with extremely strong venom. Simply hearing the description of its appearance, I straightforwardly stated it was a Macashin. Hyun Juyeon felt instantly shocked, curious about how I would know the name of a monster currently only known inside the association. It turns out the names of monsters are not decided randomly. The energy condensed in the magic stones inside their bodies contains exclusive information, and after analyzing it, the relevant data of the monster becomes known. With the power of science currently on Earth, while it was the power of magic in the destroyed world. That is to say, under the circumstance that the same kind of monster appears in both worlds, all monster information will be known by me. Macashins can be easily dealt with using the secretion of the red flower ant. Amidst her curiosity, I explained that the secretion of the red flower ant is harmless to humans, but it produces a strong paralyzing effect on Macashins. As long as it gets splashed by this toxin, it can no longer use its mobility. At this moment, Hyun Ju-yeon spat out the last trace of curiosity from the bottom of her heart. Who exactly are you? Seo Dojin. The luxury sports car was speeding extremely fast. My silence was met with her speaking up again. Are you even listening to me? After being silent for a long time, I finally couldn't hold it back and spoke. What would happen if I killed Hong Hee-ju? Meanwhile, inside the director's office of T Group, Hong Hee-ju was continuously biting her fingernails. Chief Lee standing in front of her also fell into silence. How did things turn out like this? Why would Hyun Ju-yeon? It's currently unclear what her relationship with Dojin is, and how they got to know each other. That Hyun Ju-yeon, what exactly is going on? And what does it mean that Dojin is not a hero? Didn't he awaken? Judging from surface indications, he has indeed already awakened. We can only presume he might possess some ability that can evade the hero detector. The repeated failures made a trace of ruthlessness show on Hong Hee-ju's face. Contact Kang Yang-pyo immediately. I'll give him 30 billion to resolve this at once. However, upon hearing this offer, Kang Yang-pyo actually wanted to double it. Isn't this going a bit too far? If it's against another S rank like Hyun Ju-yeon, then this is the least she can do. The assistant broke out in a cold sweat and commented that Hyun Ju-yeon is indeed a dangerous opponent. The wooden table shattered beneath the man's heel, startling the assistant to the side. Do you think all S ranks are the same? I can take care of trash like Hyun Ju-yeon in 20 minutes. At this time, the assistant was so scared he trembled continuously, hurriedly saying yes. Right, as the association replied, due to the situation in Country E, they said that they can't increase the monetary amount any further. The association publicly announced they will select elites to dispatch over there. Those association people are so damn annoying. When is my departure scheduled? In 3 days, you will be setting off together with the Japanese heroes. Kang Yang-pyo began to ponder. Macashin, a new type of monster whose weakness has yet to be discovered. If I can find its weakness, my net worth will inevitably rise. Meanwhile, in City C of Country E, a massive mantis-type monster, the Macashin, was on the streets of the downtown area. Facing this alien beast, although everyone had long prepared perfectly, looking at the incomparably huge figure still made them break out in a cold sweat uncontrollably. It brandished its forelimbs like the scythe of death. The tips of its sharp claws pierced straight toward the ground. Everyone charged towards the monster fearlessly. The magic-type ability users in the rear instantly gathered black energy in their hands, launching a direct strike at its abdomen. A member beside them took the opportunity to swing the greatsword in his hands, slashing towards its skull. With everyone's coordinated effort, the Macashin collapsed, and the mantis-like head snapped off in response. Everyone's physical stamina was already exhausted completely. Just as they let their guard down, a team member looked into the distance. Behind the tall buildings, several Macashins of equal size were looking towards this location. The man let out a cry of terror. The sharp claws pierced straight toward the man's skull. At this time, identical situations also began to occur in nearby areas. Facing the giant beasts they had zero information on, Country E was helpless. Along with the collapse of the first defense line, the terrifying Macashins advanced straight towards the direction of the capital. Just at this moment, a faint mist permeated the air in the sky, and the Macashins were petrified on the spot. The incomparably massive bodies of the Macashin all smashed heavily onto the ground at this time. It turns out that high in the sky, an armed helicopter full of heroes watched in disbelief. As per Hyun Ju-yeon's advice, they sprayed the secretion of the red flower ant over the Macashins, rendering them useless. Even Kang Yang-pyo on the side couldn't help but be shocked. How is it possible? How would she know? Alright, let's go and finish it up now. Following her command, the S-rank heroes charged into battle. Not long after, in the international airport of Country K, reporters from major media outlets gathered in front of the exit, quietly waiting for the returning heroes. I heard the one who performed most outstandingly during this expedition was Hyun Ju-yeon, truly worthy of being an S-rank hero. I heard she discovered the weakness of the Macashin, which is why it could be resolved so easily this time. Also, media reported that the royal family of Country E will bestow a title of nobility upon Hyun Ju-yeon. Look, she's coming out. It's Hyun Ju-yeon. Under the gaze of the public, she walked head-on. One by one, reporters continuously asked her how she discovered the weakness of the Macashin. Also, Mr. Kang Yang-pyo, say a few words. I heard you hunted the most monsters during this expedition. Even the news was reporting all of this live. The key to hunting Macashins this time was spraying the secretion of the red flower ant from the air. Meanwhile, in front of a skyscraper, I was watching the news report, looking at Kang Yang-pyo smiling in front of the camera. A cold light surged in my eyes. At this moment, inside a luxurious restaurant, looking at the gifts pushed in front of me, holding a cup of coffee in my hand, I felt suddenly puzzled. Hyun Ju-yeon hurriedly explained that the first two were for Eun-young and grandmother, and the last one was for me. Amidst her awkwardness, I opened the packaging back. This piece of clothing looks quite expensive. She said it was just to thank me for my help. It was also because of my prior reminder that she became a meritorious contributor in this operation. Compared to the gifts she received, these gifts were relatively light. At this time, Hyun Ju-yeon was still slightly puzzled as to why I would know the weakness of the Macashin. Is this a question I must answer? A simple sentence from me made it impossible for her to press further. She then started to ask about my future plans. Her intentions was actually to stop me from making a move against Hong Hee-ju and Kang Yang-pyo. First should be buying a house, right? right, so you are still renting a house now? She asked in confusion. Meanwhile, inside a luxury mansion, a passionate party was underway. In the center of the pool, a woman slowly handed the wine in her hand to Kang Yangpyo. Hyun Ju-yeon seems a bit different from before. Kang Yangpyo recalled the conversation with her on the airplane. Never mind the Macassians. What is the deal with Seo Dojin? I heard you took down a prosecutor to save that kid. Were you also present when he crippled Chulwoo? Wasn't it Kang Chulwoo who made a move first? He also hired assassins. Although it was an attempted murder, it was him who provoked things first that day. That bastard Chulwoo did that kind of thing for a little bit of money. He wouldn't be wronged even if he died. But he is my cousin after all, so my reason is sufficient to take revenge on him, right? What he received was Hyun Ju-yeon's indifferent pupils. Do as you please. I have no intention of interfering. Is their relationship really not that deep? No need to interfere? That's clearly what she said. There must definitely be something hidden in that kid Seo Dojin. In order to gather magic stones to the maximum extent before the next monster wave arrives, the Hero Association of Country E is dispatching a large number of heroes into the rift. A man couldn't help but sigh. If the wave is stopped in advance, this is absolutely an excellent place to obtain high-quality magic stones, because it turns out that a region where a wave has already occurred can no longer be gated. Yeah, some countries went toward destruction precisely because of that. Amidst the conversation, the team member beside him turned his head sharply. It feels like someone is about to come out, but this is only 5 hours from the last wave. Alright, stay alert. It might be a normal person preparing to come over and steal magic stones. Before the words faded, the rift trembled violently, making them reveal looks of terror. A humanoid monster, glowing red all over and wearing metallic textured clothing, stepped out of the rioting rift. Its sharp gaze radiated a greatly menacing aura. No, its clothes and scars. It's not a hero. Contact headquarters immediately. Under the sharp palms, halos of thorns gathered. Instantly, several thorn halos surrounded the two, and their bodies floated up as if having lost their weight. The man threw out several sharp daggers straight towards the humanoid monster, but it was simply deflected by the thorn halos. You guys are too weak. The humanoid monster simply grasped its hand. The halos contracted with great force, and the two wailed continuously. It extended its sharp palm, revealing black lightning. The power of its entire body condensed at its fingertips. A data template representing an unknown meaning appeared in front of it. 10 years should have passed in this world. Why hasn't even 20% been recovered? Did it fail? I finally triggered the rift. It seems I have to raise the mana concentration. The man let out his final trace of confusion before dying. A cold smile formed on its menacing face, and the corpses beside it violently exploded to pieces. But before that, let's clean up these guys who are weaker than bugs first. At this moment, I walked slowly on the vast lawn. In silence, I meticulously observed the movements around me. Just then, the ground beneath my feet trembled violently. Several monsters resembling death worms broke out of the ground, shattered the ground around me in an instant, and then darted back underground again. I gazed hovering over the holes they left behind. I sensed that there were 26 monsters of equal size within a 100-meter radius. Let's see how many of you can survive. A blazing fire shot out towards the hole, and after a moment of silence, the holes previously left by the worm monsters nearby exploded one after another, spewing out fragmented corpses like erupting volcanoes. Below, I watched the scene before me, unable to help revealing a hint of a laugh. At this time, in the Hero Association building of Country K, Na Taewang was asking the deputy director in front of him, what kind of person is he? Perhaps he is a very difficult young man to deal with. Min Honggi, the deputy director, spoke up, and he also personally confirmed that he is a hero. Didn't they say the hero detector couldn't detect him? But apparently there was no official report on this. At this time, the vice president of the association, Park Sung-chul, roared, "This kid is really arrogant." If the association asked, he should just confess honestly. Did you find anything else? Hearing his inquiry, the deputy director could only state the few pieces of information they currently had. Actually, the cause of this matter is still because Kang Chulwoo attempted murder. He threw the civilian Seo Dojin into the gate, attempting to kill him, but Seo Dojin miraculously survived and accidentally awakened an ability. Although his personal actions were slightly excessive, what can be confirmed at present is, he possesses overwhelming strength. It seems he is a wild horse that is hard to tame, but he is indeed a fine steed. He also applied for the qualification to be promoted to an official hero, hoping to bypass the tedious procedures, and the guarantor is actually the S-rank hero Hyun Ju-yeon. The deputy director's words made both the president and vice president of the association look shocked. I simply looked at the special ID in front of me, the 8th S-rank hero of Country K. Thanks to this, I can now hunt monsters as I please in the rift zones. Listening to the deputy director's report, Na Taewang burst into loud laughter. He went to the rift zone in City P right after getting his registration ID. What an amazing guy. Wait, he went alone without carrying other guild members or equipment and independently entered a level 2 rift zone. Is he crazy? Na Taewang gaze turned serious, and the two quietly looked at the foolish and ignorant vice president. Only then did Park Sung-chul realize his previous presumption. If that guy named Seo Dojin can come back alive, then we will publicly reveal his identity and heavily promote him. He is the 8th S-rank hero of Country K after all. This may not be his personal wish. Shouldn't we ask for his opinion first? Deputy Director Min, in such special times. Wouldn't the country having another S rank reassure the citizens? Don't you agree, President? I understand both of your opinions, so let me personally go meet him once. At this moment, incomparably massive worm monsters wailed continuously under my feet, and several monsters of equal size nearby roared as they attacked me. I simply observed the movements of the surrounding monsters, using the unquenchable flames as a sword. Dozens of monsters died prematurely in front of me in the blink of an eye. Falling from the sky, my hands continuously emitted hot air, and the worm monsters that had been cut in response also fell down one after another closely behind. With both hands burning with eternal fire, I surveyed my surroundings. As the mana retracted, the flames also dissipated along with it. As expected, mana consumption is still too high. It seems I finally need to prepare a real weapon. At this moment, at the Gazan Hero Complex, a man was guarding the front desk, tapping away at a game in his hands. I pushed the door and entered carrying a large bag. I want to use this to make a weapon. Sorry, we only accept reservations here. If you don't have a reservation, please check out another shop. I heard that reservations here are fully booked and they absolutely don't accept new orders. It was you on the phone earlier. Yes, the reservations here are full. We don't have time right now. While he spoke, I fiercely grabbed him by the collar. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Call your boss out right now. The man had no choice but to walk towards the back of the shop. Dad, a customer says he wants to see you. Choi Chokwan, a hero weapon craftsman, was slightly puzzled. Who introduced you? I revealed that it was the S-rank hero Hyun Juyeon, which instantly stunned Choi Keelwon and his son as well. The old man asked for confirmation again in disbelief, but was completely shocked by the materials I pulled out of my bag. Father, what is this? This is the fang of a giant black killer fang. I haven't seen this kind of material in a long time. Make me a decent longsword. Choi Chokwan raised a doubt. If non-metallic materials like this are forcibly made long, their hardness will weaken. It's better to make two medium swords. Are you declaring your lack of skill? Connect the two pieces together to make one longsword for me, and try to increase the mana absorption rate as much as possible. The performance of the weapons my dad makes can at least reach grade 3 mana absorption. Looking at the roaring man, I fell silent for a moment, then pulled out an exhibit item from inside the shop. Looks like it's just grade 5 at best. The hands gripping the sword blade instantly exerted force. The longsword began to emit bursts of light. Under the shocked gazes of the two, it gradually curled, and the blade in my hand shattered as if unable to bear the heavy burden. The two stared intently at the fragments on the ground. If you guys only know how to make this kind of garbage, then forget it. Facing my questioning, Choi Chokwan sank into silence. At this moment, in a forest, the sunlight shone on the one-eyed monster. It instantly opened its eyes from its slumber. Then, it let out a deafening loud roar. Still so noisy, I slowly walked over with a blazing fire igniting in my hands. With a simple sidestep, I dodged the sole of the foot it struck with. The flames in my hands faintly condensed into a crimson sword, slashing down at the shoulder blade of the one-eyed giant monster. The surroundings were instantly covered by the sounds of its pain. It fiercely pulled up a tree trunk from under its feet and forcefully threw it. However, I sliced the flying tree trunk in half with a casual swipe of my sword. Immediately following that, I dashed and continued to charge forward. The one-eyed monster was incredibly terrified. The monster's body was torn open by the crimson blade, but just then, its mana began to surge into the wound. The severed part started to heal, recovering completely as before in the blink of an eye. I swung my palm coated with flames, jumping behind it, my fingertips striking an acupoint on its back. Immediately, it wailed in agony like a body consumed by fire, and the sword of flames then severed it at the neck. The massive headless corpse smashed heavily by my side. Maintaining the mana sword really isn't easy as expected. I took out a container from my backpack and poured a few liters of blood from its heart. With this, I managed to successfully obtain a Cyclops' blood. In the evening, I returned to the weapon shop carrying the package. I placed a jar of blood in front of the man. With this, the two fangs can be easily connected together. Under his puzzled gaze, I turned and left. Currently, the basic materials are complete, but if we need to improve the mana absorption rate, one thing is still missing. It seems I can only find it in that place. At this moment, at the center of a pool, I was calling someone's phone. Hyun Juyeon suddenly felt astonished. She wondered why I was going to Country B. The cozy poolside reflected the figures of Jong and Ju and Hyun Juyeon. It turned out the two were discussing the matter of the association preparing to dispatch heroes to Country B. The reward given by the association is considered quite good, so our guild decided to go. Bring that man along to go together. Is he the 8th S rank that the outside world is talking so much about? The outside world is also spreading rumors that you and he have an ambiguous relationship. I've seen the two of you with my own eyes. Under Jong and Ju's continuous begging, she had no choice but to agree. However, I don't know if he will go either. Meanwhile, back at the Gazan Hero Complex, Choi Chokwan was shocked by the thing in front of him. Why can non-metallic materials also be combined together so perfectly? How did you know that the blood of a Cyclops could be used like this? Make it into the shape of a two-handed sword for me, but adjust the handle so I can swing it with one hand. Choi Chokwan originally thought I was a guy who didn't understand etiquette, but it seems like he was wrong. He asked in confusion, wouldn't 5 kilograms be a bit heavy to use with one hand? It will take about a month to complete, and the mana absorption rate can also at most reach around grade 7. I don't know if level 7 can support my full power. store. It seems I still need that item after all. Just shape the form for now. I'll provide the other materials later. Choi Chokwon fell into shock. He wondered if I really could obtain that material. A few days later, at a parking lot in the downtown area, a luxury Rolls-Royce was parked here. I expressed my gratitude to the person in front of me. Hyun Ju-yeon slowly stated that these things were not a bother, but still, I told her I greatly appreciated it. The handsome side profile made her start to blush. By the way, is something going on with the association? They wanted to expose my identity, and then I gave them a warning. It seemed like the president Na Tae-hwang understood, and we settled on an agreement. She tried to ask me to be more careful, but I closed the door on her face instead. The next second, Hyun Ju-yeon also got inside the car. At this time that the association is currently in a panic because of the country B matter. Wait until this matter calms down, then we can have a good talk with the association president. They're going to completely shut down that part of country B. Are you going too? The voice in her ear instantly made her blush with shame. That's right, I'll be going there. If that's the case, let me go with you. Words resembling a proposal made her face flush entirely red. Meanwhile, Hong Hee-ju's anger soared, questioning the man in front of her how much more he wanted. Kang Yeon-pyo stated that the money now was still a bit too little. The woman couldn't help regretting, saying she shouldn't have sought out guys like him. For the sake of the 30 billion, I'll provide you with a bit of intelligence for free. That guy Seo Dojin is an S-rank hero, the 8th S-rank of country K. That little bastard is an S-rank? If you don't want to believe it, just wait until Seo Dojin blows everything up. Subsequently, Kang Yeon-pyo stood up slowly and walked towards the door. Is Seo Dojin really an S-rank? If he's an S-rank, he'll be out of my control. I will give you any amount you want, no matter what. Help me resolve him, not just money. If we can become business partners, that's not impossible either. The woman agreed with chilling killing intent. Yet unexpectedly, a message was transmitted to Kang Yeon-pyo at this time. Hong Hee-ju was covered in cold sweat, panicking internally. Kang Yeon-pyo carefully read the text message in his hand. It seems even God is helping you. The best opportunity to kill Seo Dojin has arrived. Meanwhile, a private jet was flying towards Country B. Major media broadcasted live reports on the 5 S-ranks dispatched in the Country B operation this time. Whether it was Jang Seongo who dragged P Group to #1 in the financial world, Park Hae-il who hunted Kazarian, the national hero Hyun Ju-yeon, the ruthless and greedy Kang Yeon-pyo, or me, Seo Dojin, the mysterious 8th S-rank hero of Country K. At this time, Kang Yeon-pyo was carefully observing the figure on the side. It was me, leisurely eating instant noodles. Amidst everyone's strictly disciplined preparations, the airplane was already about to arrive in Country B. At this time, in City S of Country B, inside the Country B Hero Association building, a man marveled at the execution efficiency of Country K, because among all countries, Country K arrived the earliest, and some heroes even started operations directly without going to their lodgings. The man's eyes were solemn, worrying that the heroes of Country K would notice a particular piece of information. There are no eternal secrets in the world, but as long as the secret is protected until the operation ends, it will be fine. Consecutive incidents made the man let out a long sigh. According to the news source from the front lines, an S-rank hero of Country B was killed by an unidentified existence, and under the surveillance of the monitoring system, it was not a monster. It was clearly a human figure. But why would humans emerge from a rift? What exactly happened in the rift zone near City S? At this time, in the frontline command room, a man was explaining the information to the heroes who came to assist below. Hyun Ju-yeon was puzzled as to why I had disappeared right after getting off the plane. It turned out that prior to this, I had already transferred flights and gone to a further destination. I was already on the way to City S, towards the rift. She felt instantly shocked. Why would he go to that most troublesome rift alone? The explanation of the man on the podium also came to an end, assigning rift zones for the heroes who arrived. Walking outside, Hyun Ju-yeon carried her bags and prepared to get in a car. As the taxi was about to depart, she was hindered by a man. Kang Yeon-pyo voiced his question as to why she was leaving in a hurry before the itinerary even started. She informed him that she was leaving for City S as well. He looked at the vehicle moving further and further away, involuntarily feeling puzzled as to why Hyun Ju-yeon would go to the place that Country B was wary of. At this time, in the rift zone near City S, Hyun Ju-yeon's group, having rushed over hurriedly, was following behind me. She asked curiously why I was in such a hurry to rush here. If I had informed her of the specific situation, they wouldn't have had to wait. Under her continuous inquiries, I finally stated the purpose of this trip was because of something called Blue Croco. Hyun Ju-yeon instantly felt astonished. Just for such a simple reason, I actually deceived her into coming all the way here. Jong and Jo behind them looked at the two arguing in front and couldn't help but sigh. Perhaps only he can boss Hyun Ju-yeon around like this. Meanwhile, the personnel in the team were worried if it really was okay to enter the rift area just like this, but another member reassured that it would be fine with Hyun Ju-yeon there. However, he was still curious about who the newcomer beside the leading Hyun Ju-yeon was. Listening to the newcomer from his mouth, another teammate couldn't help but laugh. Newcomers are not all the same. If it's Dojin, he might be the strongest newcomer in history. Are you planning to seal off this entire rift? Why seal it off? I came here to find materials. Of course, it's to drain it dry. Just then, a sharp claw exuding a metallic texture lunged straight at them. The man broke into a heavy sweat under its massive force. A team member holding a spear spoke up here, reminding everyone to get into battle positions, but he still couldn't help feeling terror. These monsters are even more terrifying than described in the briefing. The team members beside him also felt alarmed one after another, but they were interrupted by my voice, telling them to get out of the way. Under the eyes of the public, I drew the sharp sword hanging from my waist. Finally, the sword god was once again wielding a sword. It turned out that before coming here, in order to make it easier for me to extract the heart of a blue croco, Choi Chokwan handed over the treasured sword he cherished to me. Facing the opponent, I readied myself to strike with the sword. I exerted force suddenly and charged straight at the monster. In merely a split second, I broke through to behind the monsters. Their figures were like static. Yet in just a moment, several cracks flashed across the metallic bodies. As the power righted and reached its limit, they subsequently collapsed. Some in the crowd sighed with emotion, while others revealed expressions of shock, because these terrifying monsters were easily slain by me. Deep in the city's rift, everyone gathered around the campfire, continuously marveling at Dojin's skills during the day. At this time, a man quietly told the teammate beside him about my deeds in the Kazarian rift. They finally understood that I wasn't an average hero. At this time, Hyun Juyeon walked over from behind, asking me if the blue croco heart had already been processed. As you can see, I raised my hand and pointed to the box behind. Seeing me go through so much trouble to run here, she couldn't help but doubt what exactly I was going to use this for. Subsequently, she started to wonder what the meat on the roasting rack was. She had never seen blue meat before. She was shocked to find out that it was blue croco meat. We prepared a lot of food. Why do we still have to eat the meat of a blue croco? If you don't want to eat it, you don't have to. Watching the meat of a monster sizzle in my mouth, even Jong and Ju on the side couldn't help but marvel at my courage. She wondered why, with so much meat available, we had to eat this kind of thing. Whether out of curiosity or something else, unexpectedly even Hyun Juyeon slightly wanted to try it. Just because of my phrase "it's edible," S-rank hero Hyun Juyeon believed me without hesitation. Her action made Jong and Ju stunned. She slowly put the meat piece into her mouth. Strange, the taste is actually this good. At this time, Jong and Ju gradually approached me next to the campfire. Pressing close to my side, she curiously asked what made Hyun Juyeon easily infatuated with me. She had never been so attentive to any man before. These kinds of things I did not lack in my previous life. Whether it was the noble ladies in the Imperial Academy, the youngest and most outstanding princess of the Leshlian family, or her who once faced the demon race directly together with me, Veronica. But at this time, my deep thoughts were interrupted by Jong and Ju. Perhaps it's because of personal charm. The scene before her eyes made her fall into silence. This was the most awkward thing she had ever seen, and she began to tease Hyun Juyeon. At this time in City S, a man was reporting the situation to Kang Yangpyo on the sofa. Kang Yangpyo really couldn't understand why Hyun Juyeon and the others would rush out of City S hurriedly before the operation even started, and actually stayed together with Seo Dojin, and even the other S ranks had to act separately. The rift over at City S clearly had no benefit to speak of at all, and the official reports of Country B stated it was extremely dangerous there. Matters related to that guy Seo Dojin are always so unpredictable. On the other end of the phone was Hong Heeju's urging. She questioned Kang Yangpyo why there was still no action from his side. It turned out that the head of T Group, Seo Dojin's grandfather, had already started noticing him. This made the woman terrified, hurriedly urging him to speed up his plans. The man looked at the topography in front of him and made a guarantee to her. Rest assured, that guy Seo Dojin absolutely cannot come back alive. He simply made a mark on the map in front of him. After turning his head, he ordered a subordinate to contact Takeshi immediately, because Seo Dojin had gone into an isolated location, making their job easier. At this moment, I, along with Hyun Juyeon and the others, was advancing towards the depths of the rift. According to the description of the information on the map, the dangerous zone was ahead. That was where cunning monsters, the fox demon lynx, existed. So these monsters are also here. I walked forward alone. She knew something like this would happen, but she wouldn't stop me this time. Just bring this along. What is this thing? It turns out that these were earplugs. Wearing these can prevent me from being bewitched by the lynx. Keep them for yourselves. I don't need this. I walked further and further away as she continued to warn me. Walking forward into the depths on my own, Hyun Juyeon still persisted regarding the matter of the earplugs. At this moment, on the branches of a tree trunk, a figure was quietly staring at us, manifesting its pitch-black silhouette under the illumination of the moonlight. It was the fox demon lynx. Seeing this scene, everyone was instantly terrified. Jong and Ju hurriedly yelled to the group, telling them to cover their ears to avoid being bewitched. The crowd's panic didn't shake me at all. The fox demon lynx looked up to the sky and let out a powerful roar. Under its roar, everyone covered their ears, including the S-rank hero Hyun Juyeon without exception. But I looked at this scene in front of me with no worries. Why didn't he cover his ears, and was completely unaffected by it? I slowly picked up a stone from the ground. Suddenly, eternal flames began to rise in my hands. With the flick of my wrist, the stone shot out like a fireball. This scene shocked those who covered their ears. Before everyone could react in time, the fox demon lynx was startled by my attack just now, and fled towards the distance. I followed closely behind, dashing in the direction of the lynx. Hyun Juyeon and Jong and Ju both fell into shock as to why the fox fox demons crying suddenly stopped. They continuously chased after my footsteps. On the branches ahead stood several fox demon lynxes, but I stood tall in front of them without any fear. Among the beast pack was the lynx whose leg was injured by my stone earlier. Suddenly, its eyes burst with strange light. This made everyone who just arrived terrified. Even Hyun Juyeon, as an S-rank hero, suddenly froze. Those strange demonic beast evil eyes plunged her into deep terror. But in just an instant, I extended a hand to block her field of vision. Standing behind her, I resolutely told her, "Don't be bewitched by them. Their eyes can paralyze a person's mind, not its cry. Just close your eyes and rest for a bit." The instant power converged around my body. The sharp sword in my hand was buffed with a scorching light as if attached by flames. The crimson mana sword radiating power ignited even stronger flames, and the mana around my body transformed into flames. This was the Van Dien sword skill. First form, Karita Milagro Ruckle, a miracle born from a single point. Slowly, I raised the crimson sharp blade in my hand. The powerful force made all the fox demons instinctually worry. The fire pellet at the tip of the sword grew larger under the pull of mana. Exactly what kind of ability was this? Just then, my eyes burst with powerful light. In a split second, all the power of flames gathered around my body fired from the tip of the sword. World-destroying power bloomed within the pack of fox demons, instantly obliterating the fox demons one by one. Magma-like flames charged straight into the depths of the forest. Jong In-ju and Hyun Juyeon both lost their focus under this firelight. She looked at the scene in front of her in terror. In front of me was scorched earth swallowed by blazing flames, and countless fox demon lynxes collapsed on the ground. The scene before them caused cold sweat to stream down their faces. She couldn't believe I actually possessed such powerful strength. In the forest swallowed by flames, a weak fox demon surprisingly remained. I walked slowly towards its battered and exhausted body. The ferocious glint in its eyes remained unabated, emitting power that paralyzed the mind. Yet in just an instant, it was slain by the sharp sword in my hand. In a split second, the demonic beast's head was severed. Why does such an inconspicuous guy still dare to use its power against me? Now I'm going to take your eyeballs. There will be a great use for them. At this time, Seo Dojin's group, having eliminated the fox demons, was returning in the direction they came from. Everyone in the team, regardless of who it was, had faces full of smiles, simply because the previous battle was far too crazy for them. It had already far exceeded the bounds of humanity. They suddenly felt that with Seo Dojin's skills, perhaps he had already surpassed Alphonse, and was even on the same level of existence as the world's strongest hero, Kane Lester. And right at this moment, the lake near them emitted gurgling sounds. It was a horde of undead zombies. They roared as they climbed up from the bottom of the water. Truly a bunch of brainless undead. They lunged fiercely towards the team. With a bang, a fist smashed heavily into the side of its face. Under the powerful force, the undead's head instantly blew apart. Just then, my movement became a blur. Instantly, their bodies had been blasted open with holes, and the heads and torsos of the undead flew in the air. Finally, I crushed the last undead zombie. Everyone was once again shocked by the good show staged in front of them. Later, Hyun Juyeon quickly chased up. "That kind of sword technique, exactly where did you learn it from?" So it turns out she wanted to ask about the sword technique I executed earlier. "Do you want to learn too?" My words made her suddenly overjoyed. "Can I learn too? This kind of sword technique is completely useless in this peaceful world, right? What's the use of learning it now? If you don't want to teach, you can just say so." She actually thought I was looking down on her. The sudden eye contact made her freeze. "So do you. I don't even carry that much weight. Now let's cross the rift ahead and get out." At this time, everyone slowly approached the rift they came from. Thanks to Seo Dojin, they were able to pass through completely unscathed this time. Looking back, Jong In-ju realized that it would be easier to close the rift next time. As everyone passed through, she also stepped into the rift. But just as she poked her head out, she heard a roar. "Is that Japanese?" Everyone stared blankly ahead. At this time, I held the flushed red Hyun Juyeon tightly in my arms. Standing in front of us was a man holding a butcher knife. This was the S-rank hero Ryoma Takeshi, the guild master of the Empire Guild, who was an ex-Yakuza member. "Brat, don't cause trouble in front of me. Get lost before I crush you like garbage." "Are you calling yourself garbage?" The voice I suddenly popped out made Hyun Juyeon stunned. She asked how I also knew Japanese. Actually, I am also a bit bewildered right now. Perhaps the previous Seo Dojin had learned it. "What are you talking about, you damn bastard? How dare you be so disrespectful to the boss? Do you know who he is?" Before the words faded, they were interrupted by me. "I'm not interested, so all of you get lost instead." The three S-rank heroes exuded powerful auras. This scene made Jong In-ju slightly panicked, because this man is ranked at the top of the Japanese leaderboards for many years, and his personality is extremely thug-like. She walked to the front of the crowd and spoke up, wanting to stop the conflict from erupting. This caused the personnel of the Empire Guild to suddenly roar. "What nonsense are you miscellaneous trash spouting? How dare you insult our guild master? Everyone shut up." She turned around and began to introduce herself to the man, because she didn't want a conflict to break out here. "Do you also need a man? Just wait your turn." Following that, he reached out and grabbed Hyun Juyeon's arm. Seeing this, I stepped forward to interrupt him, firmly shielding Hyun Juyeon behind me. Suddenly, a fist smashed heavily into my face. "Brat, I'm going to kill you anyway. Just stay aside and behave for now." So this was deliberate provocation. My body body suddenly exerted force, and my fist smashed straight into the side of Ryoma Takashi's face. With a bang, Ryoma Takashi directly flew towards the direction of his minions. Everyone, back off, since he struck first. Then this should count as self-defense. A one-on-one duel. You little lackeys just step back for now. Taking off his clothes, Ryoma Takashi emitted crimson mana all over his body. But at this time, Hyun Ju-yeon looked at me without any nervousness. She could only hope that I wouldn't kill him too excessively. This scene shocked both the members of the Empire Guild and Hyun Ju-yeon's group on the spot, because I had already stomped Ryoma Takashi's head onto the ground. Immediately, he quickly escaped from under my foot. Why is he so powerful? Who exactly is this person? The powerful aura right in front of him. This was completely different from the information he had heard. When I suddenly raised my head with killing intent, Ryoma Takashi felt like he was sitting on pins and needles internally, instantly breaking out in a cold sweat. He actually wanted to flee in panic, turning around and preparing to leave. But in that exact instant, my figure flashed and intercepted in front of him. Did someone order you to come over? Perhaps I have already guessed who it is. I reached out and gently pressed on the top of his head. I will not let off those who are full of hostility towards me so easily. The tightly gripped palm emitted a cracking sound, and with a forceful punch, his face was almost caved in. This scene plunged everyone into shock. Under their gazes, Ryoma Takashi collapsed openly. Jong and Jo couldn't help but exclaim at this one-sided crushing strength. Following that, I raised the sole of my foot, stepping towards Ryoma Takashi's skull. Jong and Jo suddenly felt things were bad, reached out and tugged Hyun Ju-yeon's sleeve, wanting her to intervene and mediate. Hyun Ju-yeon told me to stop, because he might actually die if this continues. I'll take responsibility. If you keep making a scene like this, something major will happen. I've seen many bastards like this, but you better not kill him. You don't need to suffer more implications because of this kind of person. Then, Jong and Jo demanded that the other members of the Empire Guild surrender quickly. Under her voice, this group of people knelt on the ground without hesitation. If kneeling down could pardon you, wouldn't that be too cheap for you? Put your heads on the ground. Without hesitation, they forcefully bowed their heads towards the ground. As Yakuza, if you did something wrong, you should cut off your fingers, shouldn't you? They hurriedly bowed while admitting their mistakes. Meanwhile, in the Country B building after this matter ended, a man carefully observed the report submitted in front of him, then looked at Hyun Ju-yeon and Jong and Jo in front of him. Although seemingly emotionless on the surface, his heart was full of disbelief. A Grand Guild Master of the Empire Guild, an S-rank hero, was actually beaten to serious injury by one man, and even reached the point of being crippled. This result is very hard to make people believe. Originally, he also wanted Country K and Country J to join hands to seal off the rifts in City S. He informed them that Country B wouldn't get involved, but they would hand this matter over to Country K and Country J to handle. Who is this Seo Dojin constantly mentioned in this information? Why isn't he present here? Hyun Ju-yeon sweated and told him that Seo Dojin had already taken his luggage and gone elsewhere. It was also at this time in the hospital. The man covered in bandages all over his body let out sounds of terror at the scene in front of him. Standing in front of him was me, holding flowers, coming to visit his condition. I came over today to pay a formal visit. I took out a special eyeball from my pockets. This was the eyeball of the fox demon Lynx. When placed in front of him, it emitted a faint red glow. Now tell me the details regarding this matter. Ryoma Takashi on the hospital bed trembled continuously. A moment later, his mouth gradually spat out the truth. Controlled by the strange ability, he seemed like a completely different person. After I found out about what I wanted to learn, I turned and left here. Regarding what I learned, I wore a dark expression in response. When the news of Seo Dojin defeating Ryoma Takashi was reported by major media, the president of the Country K Hero Association, Na Tae-won, couldn't help sighing at this explosive news. At this time, the deputy director asked Na Tae-won whether the Country J Hero Association had really given up continuing to investigate this matter. When he learned from Na Tae-won that the victim had already admitted it was his own fault, he still found it hard to believe. There must definitely be something major that Country J wanted to be avoided in this. Perhaps the balance of the world heroes would also undergo massive changes because of Seo Dojin. At this time, there was only the last day left until Country B's Rift lockdown operation. The heroes from various countries who came to assist arrived here one after another, and made pre-battle preparations in advance. When the heroes from all over the world communicated here, they shared their battle plans here. To boost pre-battle morale, Country B also specially held a party. However, the center of this celebration was naturally Seo Dojin without a doubt. Everyone's gaze gathered here, swarming around his side, all because Seo Dojin beat the Empire Guild's guild master, S-rank hero Ryoma Takashi, until he had completely no power to fight back. Everyone who came up to strike a conversation was discussing this matter without exception. If a comparison were to be made here, Jong and Jo and Hyun Ju-yeon were nothing more than ordinary people. However, Jong and Jo couldn't help but wonder what made Hyun Ju-yeon so depressed right now. When she looked towards Seo Dojin, she found that an extra woman had appeared beside Seo Dojin. For some unknown reason, the two beautiful figures actually seemed somewhat compatible. Gloria Tyler, Country A's S-rank hero, ranking first on the global beauty leaderboard. Jong and Jo slapped Hyun Ju-yeon's body. She seemed to know why Hyun Ju-yeon was so depressed, urging Hyun Ju-yeon to quickly go go over. At this time, I noticed something to the side. Hyun-Ju-yeon awkwardly walked towards my direction. A faint blush rose on her cheeks. This kind of scene made the corners of my mouth rise slightly. Subsequently, Gloria Tyler tactfully left the place. See you next time, Castle. Who is Castle? And I revealed to her that it was me. Hearing this, she asked why I also had an English name. This is just my previous name, before I was Seo Dojin. Did he live abroad before? Why are there no records? However, she was upset as to why has she never heard this name before. And right at this moment, Kang Yangpyo was looking at us from the other side of the room. Ryoma Takashi, that piece of trash, couldn't even handle this kind of guy. It seems he will have to personally take action in the end. But suddenly, a segment of words attracted him. I know your strength very well, but the enemies are closer than you think, and there are several S-rank heroes who are good friends with him. Before her words faded, they were interrupted by me. Just the same kind of trash as him. Cowardly garbage who only know how to bluff. If it's trash like that, they aren't worth fearing at all. As soon as the words fell, I looked at Kang Yangpyo behind me. Knowing this message was for him, it instantly made Kang Yangpyo burn with rage. He roared internally, "This damn bastard. I absolutely must personally slaughter you." At this moment, the moonlight of the night descended. I have never seen a sight like this. The entrance of this rift was actually filled with such thick black aura, but her team members were completely unafraid because the current team contained 2 S-rank heroes. That's right, nothing could possibly go wrong with this. Subsequently, she turned her head and ordered everyone to begin the operation. Yet unexpectedly at this time, even I was in a cold sweat because the mana concentration nearby was climbing rapidly. At this moment, someone looked at the technological product in his hand at this time. The mana concentration is about to reach 30%. Fear is going to spread. It would be easier if this group of people all died. As its low whispers fell, everyone instantly felt an incomparably heavy pressure, even to the point of being unable to breathe. There is definitely an anomaly in the mana here. This is even thicker than in the forest before. My appearance instantly made Hyun-Ju-yeon tense up too. There was definitely something suspicious going on here. After Hyun-Ju-yeon's group stepped into the rift, Jong and Ju ordered everyone to make tactical preparations. She ordered Ju-yeon and I to focus on protecting the formation. This was the safest move until we figured out the cause of the mana density change. Our objective is to close this rift, so stay sharp everyone. Let's move out. Right after Seo Dojin's group stepped into the City S rift. In the northern region of Country B, City M is the largest city in the rift zones. A 3-country assault team was dispatched here. However, this assault team suffered a powerful attack. Wings thin as cicada wings vibrated in the air. This was a swarm of killer bees. Just as the hero Park Hae-il of Country K felt shocked because they had completely no power to fight back in front of these supposedly C-rank monsters. A figure fell from the sky and landed in front of him. This made Park Hae-il begin to worry. This swarm of monsters could actually easily defeat even A-rank heroes. In an instant, the monster suddenly appeared in front of Park Hae-il. Seeing this, he fiercely threw a punch at it, but the power of this punch seemed to have no effect at all, when normally it would tear these to shreds. Park Hae-il began to wonder, how many will make it out alive this time? On the other side, Jong and Ju instantly dodged an incoming axe blade. Right before their eyes suddenly appeared a large horde of orcs. These monsters, which originally could be easily killed, had now become so powerful as well. The perfectly tacit cooperation of the teammates, and the attacks launched by exhausting all their strength, merely left a trace of a scar on its forehead. The ferocious orc flung out the axe blade in its hands. Fortunately, Hyun-Ju-yeon seized the opportunity to drag this teammate away, dodging this attack. Clearly heroes with strength reaching A rank. They were so unable to handle these opponents. Hyun-Ju-yeon easily dodged an incoming blade axe as she charged to attack. In merely a split second, she appeared behind the orc. With powerful force, she kicked the orc to the ground with one strike. Another orc swung the bone club in its hands and smashed it towards her. However, not only did this strike miss, it also smashed onto its own companion's head, causing it to break out in a cold sweat for a time. Hyun-Ju-yeon took the opportunity to dash behind it, and she once again easily kicked the orc flying on the spot. I only heard the leading orc roar fiercely toward the sky. Before the sound faded, its fangs were shattered on the spot by me. After I killed the last orc on the spot, the corpses collapsed on the ground attracted my attention, because the body of every single orc here exhibited a trace of black ripples. If one didn't observe carefully, they wouldn't be able to spot them at all, and these black ripples were the fundamental reason why they became even more powerful. Why is there the presence of dark mana here? When monsters filled with dark mana lunged at their faces, even if A-rank heroes used their full strength to launch attacks, they appeared frail and unbearable in front of them. In a panic, they almost died on the spot. In the next second, the long-haired man launched his strongest strike, taking advantage of his teammate blocking the monster's opening, but it couldn't hurt it in the slightest. Before they could recover from the shock, the swamp ghoul's attacks arrived as expected. Clearly attacks that looked very simple, yet they could easily tear apart their combat suits. This made them completely unable to understand what happened here. Why did the monsters here become so powerful? Just as he was terrified, the swamp ghoul suddenly appeared behind him, but fortunately, Jong and Ju came to the rescue in time, tearing apart the monster's body. Several attacks slashed onto the swamp ghoul's body. Obviously the most normal swamp ghoul, yet so powerful. The rift here is indeed unusual. On the other side in the City M rift, Country K's S-rank hero Park Hae-il fled in panic because all the teammates who entered the rift together with him previously were all dead, including the S ranks of Country B and Country F, just because of a few Valkyra. This was exactly the name I told Hyunjuyeon, because these guys were especially dangerous when infused with dark mana. She realized that this referred to the black aura wrapping around the monsters. Could this be the reason why these monsters became so powerful? As for this thing called mana, Hyunjuyeon had only heard of it in games. At this time, I confirmed that mana was indeed real, because the biggest difference between normal people and heroes lies in mana. Before I could finish my sentence, a swamp ghoul opened its giant mouth paved with fangs and charged at me. In the next second, powerful force directly pierced through its body. Her words made me gradually realize that this is a world without the concept of mana. This world seems to have been peaceful until now, but right now, that peace seems unable to be maintained for much longer. At this time, my eyes narrowed, while my fist struck out. The other was also swung simultaneously, and my legs and feet fiercely stomped onto the monster's body. In an instant, several swamp ghouls collapsed openly under my attacks, exploding into countless fragments with a bang. This plunged the team members, whose attacks were useless earlier, into shock. Afterwards, under my guidance, everyone slowed their footsteps and avoided the most dangerous places. Eventually, under my command, they found Valkyra's lair. At this time, Jong and Ja told everyone to be careful and on guard, but my voice interrupted her words. The most dangerous ones are them. In the next second, the power in my hand flew towards the monsters entangled in the spider webs, and the terrifying flames exploded on the bodies of the monsters. As long as it is a creature injected with dark mana by Valkyra, it will be controlled by it like a marionette. Eliminating them all together is the best outcome. Now all that's left is to take down the Valkyra itself. Originally, everyone thought I was just very strong, but the degree before their eyes had already far exceeded the bounds of humanity. This caused even the powerful S-rank hero Hyunjuyeon to pat my shoulder and ask me, "Are you maybe on your second life or something?" Regarding her words, I merely smiled slightly, because she wasn't wrong to say that. In my previous life, I was the strongest sword god of that world. However, I dismissed her question, and Jong and Ju informed me that we were about halfway to the rift core. Hearing this, I stated I wanted to clear this place completely within today, although the other people in the team were already exhausted by now. As long as I resolve Valkyra first, these problems will be readily solved. Subsequently, I turned around and dashed towards the direction of the rift. Looking at my figure getting further and further away, everyone couldn't help but let out a long sigh. What the hell is this? Why does he still have so much stamina? In merely a moment, I found Valkyra. Detecting the anomaly, it suddenly let out a hiss. In just a split second, I leaped above it. The sword blade in my hand slashed down smoothly, but that strike just now not only had no effect, it also enraged Valkyra. In an instant, a sharp spider web spat out from its mouth. While dodging its attack, I slashed out several sword strikes again, slicing it in half at the waist in just a split second. After Valkyra fell from the sky, I slowly exhaled a breath. Because I absorbed dark mana through cultivation earlier, I didn't feel any fatigue right now. After dealing with this monster, I returned to the team. Everyone couldn't help exclaiming, "In less than half an hour, I defeated the Valkyra." And looking at my appearance, it seemed I resolved it very easily. I told them that the monsters nearby had already been cleared by me, and they could rest well now. With the fall of the night curtain, everyone busied themselves performing their respective duties. I placed the meat chunks of the previously remaining monsters on the campfire. A team member stated he wanted to taste these monster meats. Upon hearing this, I handed a piece of meat to him. Actually, the reason he wanted to try these monster meats was that he felt this might be the reason why I became so powerful. And even if it wasn't, he wouldn't lose anything. For this reason, they took large bites and chewed the monster meat chunks in their hands. Although these meats don't have any special effects, I don't dislike their desire to become stronger. Reaching out, I gave them a little gift. Mana smoothly transmitted onto their bodies. This made them incomparably overjoyed, because just now they felt as if their entire bodies were filled with power. At this time, the corners of my mouth rose, and I chuckled softly. Afterwards, Jong and Ja told me that as long as we continued our path, we could reach the core of the rift. But right now, everyone's backpacks were full, so they wanted to turn back for now. Moreover, Hyunjuyeon also agreed to this matter, because after the previous battles, everyone was already physically and mentally exhausted. Although my original plan was to delay the closing of the rift as much as possible to acquire more monster materials, because materials like the blue croco heart can only be found in Country B. But the appearance of dark mana changed all this. This is not a good omen, and I feel this dark mana is very unusual. Subsequently, I poured out all the magic stones in my backpack and asked them to take these and return to the hotel first, because I am now going to thoroughly close the rift here. When I made it clear that I wanted to close the rift alone, I dashed towards the inside of the rift. Even terrifying swamp ghouls possessing powerful dark mana would turn into dust under the edge of my sword. After slaughtering the enemies before my eyes, I reached my palm into their broken torsos and pulled out the red magic stones emitting faint light. On the other side, within Hyunjuyeon's group, will Mr. Dojin be alright? Looking at the speed he rushed out like a bullet after bidding us farewell, you know he definitely still has a lot of hidden strength. But Jong and Jill looked at her expression, thinking she was worrying about me. Actually, right now, whenever she thinks about the fact that that she will be called an S rank along with someone of my strength, she can't help feeling somewhat embarrassed, because among the S rank heroes in the entire world, there is not a single one whose strength can match mine. At this time, I leaped through the air and jumped in front of a dark orc. The flash of a blade swept past, directly slicing off the top of its skull. Then, another 2 orcs swung their axes to chop at me, while I flashed to dodge the giant axes. The eternal flames bloomed in my hand. In an instant, the fireball in my hand was fiercely thrown out by me. The originally tall and large bodies appeared so insignificant under this power. In just a moment, they had already collapsed. Their filthy bodies contributed a trace of meager effort to my wealth. It soon turned to daytime, and no matter how formidable the monsters were, they couldn't withstand a single strike from my sword. Acquiring another blue croco heart, I tossed it into a glass jar for sealed storage. Looking at the increasing number of monster corpses, I didn't even know how many materials and magic stones I had harvested. I packed them all into the knapsack and advanced towards the deeper parts of the rift. At this time, in the intelligence room of the Hero Association of Country B, everyone was shocked by the scene before their eyes, because the rift over at City S, it had actually disappeared. Looking at this scene, they were ecstatic with joy, because this meant the rift had already been closed. Just as they wanted to check which team closed this rift, they found that the team had already returned 10 minutes ago. This made them unable to understand what exactly happened in this. It turns out that 10 minutes ago, I found a 2-headed ogre. This is a monster that evolved rapidly using dark mana. After I dodged one of his heavy stomps, I discovered the rift core behind him. In order to quickly close it, I held up the sword blade in my hand and attached a surge of blazing flame power onto the sword blade. Then I used the Vandian sword technique, second form, Grami Grimoire Fora, magic that unfolds in lines. This scorching power slashed directly at his arm. In the next second, he covered the wound and wailed in agony. Then I leaped into the air again, and the sword blade in my hand directly struck his chest area. The 2-headed ogre fiercely swung his arm and smashed towards the side. Then I dodged while raising the blade above my head, and the sword of flame swung at him once again. In an instant, several sword lights slashed towards him like a spider web. The aftermath of this attack shattered the surrounding trees and boulders altogether. However, unexpectedly, this 2-headed ogre actually jumped up to dodge this attack, and with both arms embracing, aiming towards me. Just at this moment, I slashed his calf off with another sword strike, taking advantage of both his heads wailing in agony. I unleashed another cross slash, and the twin-headed ogre's body was once again covered in marks of blade cuts. That originally incomparably powerful 2-headed ogre fell off like a marionette, disassembled into several sections under this attack. After that, I put away the sword blade and walked towards that rift core, but the dark mana near this rift was not as thick as I had imagined. If the dark mana was not a leak from the core, then it was caused by external reasons. This must definitely be intentionally done by someone. But to fill a rift with this degree of dark mana, at least an undead lord or imperial lich is needed. But if they existed, the majority of creatures on Earth should have long turned into undead spirits by now. Moreover, if it really was caused by external reasons, then closing this rift is also entirely useless. Following that, I fiercely smashed a punch at the rift core. The originally spinning energy fluctuation actually developed a trace of a crack at this time, but after a moment, with a crack, it exploded into shards. I'll need to investigate this further. On the other side, the Hero Association headquarters of Country B, the association president tremblingly looked at the report in his hands. It was hard to believe no matter who it was. On one side was a 3-country joint unit where only one S-rank hero survived, and on the other side was a team with 0 casualties that had closed the rift. Furthermore, in the reports transmitted from the front lines, the vast majority of the teams had already failed. Even though at least one S-rank hero was assigned to every unit, still, the final result turned out like this. In this way, the squad led by Hyun Ju-yeon became the only team that had closed a rift. These news seemed to make him realize something. Where is the hero Hyun Ju-yeon now? Upon hearing the information that she would quickly arrive at the headquarters, he immediately stood up, wanting to meet her directly. Actually, after Jong In-ju and Hyun Ju-yeon left with the team, not only did I close the first rift, I also successfully entered the second rift. The core of this second rift was in the lake right beneath my feet. At this time, at the Country B headquarters, President Lopez suddenly found Hyun Ju-yeon, asking her about the matters regarding the rift zones. Regarding another rift zone being closed, Hyun Ju-yeon believed that with Dojin's strength, this was completely a possible matter. But for a rift to be closed solely by the power of one person still made President Lopez find it hard to believe. He suddenly paused for a moment. Although this is classified, you will know sooner or later, because there are already S-rank heroes who have sacrificed their lives inside the rift zones. If it weren't for Seo Dojin, I definitely wouldn't be here either. Subsequently, she truthfully told everything to President Lopez, but President Lopez couldn't hide his despairing expression. The monster's strength directly surpassed S-rank due to the reasons of dark mana. According to Hyun Ju-yeon's statement, Seo Dojin's strength might have already surpassed all current hero ranks. Your previous rift zones are different from what we experienced, so please definitely treat it seriously. Moreover, currently, we can only differentiate those different rifts by color. There is no other way. Regarding this kind of situation, President Lopez issued an order to thoroughly investigate all of the rifts without hesitation. After Hyun Ju-yeon indifferently left the conversation room, she took out her phone and made a call. On the other end of the phone was the president of the Country K Hero Association, Na Tae-won. Hyun Ju-yeon recounted all the matters regarding dark mana to him one by one. For the current S-rank heroes, if they face monsters that have obtained dark mana, it is absolutely an extremely difficult matter. Moreover, if those that obtain dark mana are elite or boss level monsters, that situation will inevitably be extremely terrifying. Therefore, perfect preparations must be made. On another side, I have already rushed to the riverside where the third rift zone is located. Rivers, lakes, if the requirements of these three environments are converged, then there is a high probability that the exit of the rift zone is underwater. Heroes who can display their true strength underwater are very few in number. Even on a global scale, it is very hard to find a hero who is excellent at underwater combat and powerful at the same time. As soon as my body sank into the water, I detected a rich dark mana flowing in the water. Then I plunged headfirst underwater, swimming towards the direction of the dark mana. The surrounding environment also became increasingly darker. Although swimming in the water, not a single drop of water contaminated my body. This was entirely caused by the mana barrier gathered on the outer side of my body, utilizing a thin film-like barrier generated on the body. Suddenly, a giant water snake over 20 meters long broke through the water currents and sprinted towards me. This is also one of the relatively common underwater monsters in the destroyed world, Ericon. Although it doesn't have particularly powerful abilities, it was clearly powered up by the dark mana. With a bang, I broke free from its restraints. Looking at the scattered remains of the Ericon, I couldn't help feeling a bit disgusted. At exactly this time, the surrounding piranha-like monsters that had absorbed dark mana instantly smelled the blood scent. Every single one of them bit and gnawed towards the corpse fragments. Then they also aimed their sights at me. In just a moment, I swung my fists and killed the piranha-like monsters. As I continuously finished off the monsters sprinting over, the condition around me also became a bit too horrible to look at. Because it was a battle conducted underwater, the corpses of the monsters floated randomly. However, precisely because of this, more and more monsters were also attracted by more blood scent. Although dealing with them didn't require any strength, it was all wasting time. Therefore, with a turnaround, I broke free from their encirclement. With my rapid sprints and swimming, I finally discovered the source of that dark mana. At first glance, it was just a flat fish. It only had a single eye consisting of a purple scare wrapping a pale yellow vertical pupil. Seeing this, I suddenly began to laugh. I truly didn't expect to find Akramos here. Even in the destroyed world before, this thing was exceedingly rare, and those who obtained its power, all of them without exception, eventually became legendary existences. Facing this kind of golden opportunity, I certainly wouldn't let it slip by easily. At this time, the slender eye of Akramos moved very subtly. In the next second, a pitch-black power stunned me on the spot. The power of the Akramos was to create a subspace that swallows the enemy whole. Facing this kind of situation, I also didn't dare to exert force easily, because if I killed it directly, I wouldn't be able to obtain its spatial abilities, so I had to suppress it with pure mana. Powerful force poured out at this moment. The weak fish monsters in the surroundings had long been torn to shreds, but with my current amount of mana, I would eventually be swallowed by its power. Once I am swallowed by it and trapped in that subspace, then what welcomes me is basically only death left. Therefore, I made a decision. When my mana is about to run dry, I will choose to absorb the dark mana permeating the deep water. Anyway, rather than waiting for death with exhausted mana trapped in Akramos' subspace, it is better to go all out for one gamble. At this moment, a trace of fresh blood emerged from my nose. It felt like my entire body would burst open at any moment. The mana this body can bear now has already reached its limit. However, even if the spirit of my whole body was gradually blurring, I resolutely chose to stake everything on one throw. On the calm surface of the lake, a bang exploded a column of water. Under that sky-piercing pouring river water, one person and one fish emerged. I looked in astonishment at the energy fluctuation in my hand. This is the subspace power of Akramos. Following this, I passed out from exhaustion. Later, I found myself waking up in a different location. I sat up and looked at my hand, channeling the new spatial ability in my hand. The mana of my current weak body obtained a massive enhancement, and I also acquired the dimensional power capable of opening a subspace. This was the greatest harvests of my trip. Subsequently, I stood up and put the backpack and sword into the subspace. Actually, long before discovering Akramos, I had already hunted many monsters, so I had to head back into the lodge. At the same time, in the Hero Association building of Country K, Deputy Director Min was reporting to Na Tae-won the list of sacrificed heroes officially announced this time. Hearing these words, Na Tae-won felt regret for the talents lost this time. Then the Deputy Director continued to report the detailed situation of Country B. Regarding the fact that Seo Dojin was able to independently close a rift of that intensity, Na Tae-won realized that Seo Dojin is indeed a more remarkable person than he imagined. At the same time, this Ryoma Takashi incident had already made Seo Dojin a hot topic, resulting in a bigger outcome. The Deputy Director then reported there were no abnormal conditions with the local rifts. Despite this, he ordered to significantly increase the monitoring personnel. However, he still had some worries regarding Seo Dojin's matters, because because President Lopez is a stingy person. He will try to squeeze out everything he can from CO Dojin. But Deputy Director Manhwa's view was exactly the opposite. He was even worried that President Lopez would be fiercely taught a lesson by CO Dojin. As soon as the voice fell, the two fell silent for a while. You're right, CO Dojin is definitely not someone to be trifled with. At this time, Dojin was indeed causing President Lopez to feel panic. Isn't this request of yours going too far? Since you feel this condition goes too far, then there's no need to discuss anymore. Before I could walk 2 steps, President Lopez hurriedly called me to stop. As an S-rank hero, shouldn't you shoulder a bit of responsibility to protect civilians? I alone have already closed 2 rifts, and now you are talking to me about responsibilities and obligations? What does the safety of Country B have to do with me? If the rift zones in Country K became like that, would you send heroes to help Country K? Currently, the rift zones within a 500-kilometer radius have already become inaccessible areas. We can only watch helplessly. If the rift zones underwent anomalies again, then Country B would inevitably be destroyed. That kind of chilling scenario is unimaginable. Therefore, no matter what, they must borrow Dojin's power. If the situation is indeed like this, then the answer is very simple. You just have to agree to Dojin's conditions. Isn't that enough? Compared to this, isn't the survival of Country B more important? These words made President Lopez and the assistant beside him fall silent for a while. Alright, I'll agree to your terms. From now on, for every rift you close, I will pay you 50 million. Should have done this earlier. Then deposit the 100 million for the 2 rifts I closed previously into my account. Although Hyun Juyeon was slightly worried at this time that if this matter was exposed, people would call me greedy, but she knew that with Country B's pride, they probably wouldn't choose to expose this matter either. Then she looked back behind her, looking at my resolute expression and figure. A hint of blush suddenly appeared on her face. At this time, I suddenly closed my eyes and thought of the previous CO Dojin. I will build the safest house for Eun-young and grandmother. With this, you should be satisfied enough, right? Afterwards, in the restaurant, Jong and Jo asked me if we should go to another rift together. If you want to maximize the benefits, then you guys can close 1 rift together with me first, and then while you and the guild members are resting, I will go close a 2nd rift. The reward for the rift zone closed together will be distributed fairly per head. This way, we can close up to 3 rifts in one day. Hearing my words, the members of the Violet Guild laughed, full of fighting spirit. I advised Hyun Juyeon to not push herself before I arrived, and just focus on protecting her own guild members well. These words made her face blush completely red directly. Could these two be on a date? That action just now must be cheering Hyun Juyeon on. Taking advantage of the fact that there was still plenty of time today, I came to a new rift once again. Suddenly, a monster appeared, 15 meters tall, looking like a cyclops but with abilities far inferior to it, and launched an attack at me. At the exact moment its fist and palm fell, I directly flashed to its back. Taking advantage of it being completely unaware, my fist fiercely accumulated power and directly delivered a heavy blow to it. But this attack seemed not only ineffective, but indirectly enraged him. Subsequently, I also understood that this guy was meant to take heavy hits. However, this is the perfect opportunity to try out the newly researched technique. Following closely, that cyclops dashed fiercely towards me, but as soon as it came in front of me, it was heavily smashed in the face by a whip kick of mine. This attack caused black blood to gush straight from its mouth. Just then, its veins began popping out on its body, and its skin looked as if it were burned, revealing a reddish hue. Immediately afterwards, I turned around and reached out my hand, manifesting a subspace resembling a miniature rift. The cyclops's fist directly entered the subspace, and a subspace rift appeared just behind its head. In the next second, its own fist came crashing down at the back of his head. Using this ability, I realized that it wasn't very effective for combat use due to the mana consumption being too high. Meanwhile, at this moment, the Rift Supervision Center of the Hero Association of Country B had already learned that the rift I had gone inside had been closed. After learning the fact that the rift zone was sealed, President Lopez, sitting in the monitoring center seat, was secretly shocked in his heart. Closing a rift zone in merely 8 hours? This is something unheard of prior to this. Subsequently, he urged his assistant to transfer the money over. Before the words had completely fallen, 50 million had already been deposited into my account. Although this could happily resolve the country's major problems, if it continues at this rate, 24 rift zones would cost a staggering 1.2 billion in rewards. We absolutely cannot let him take it all away by himself. Then, President, are we going to delay the payment to him? Before the words faded, they were denied by President Lopez. Go right now to assemble the S-rank heroes from various countries who are currently resting, and also assemble as many A-rank heroes as possible. We are going to form a special unit. We cannot let that guy CO Dojin monopolize it all. Tell them the team reward is 10 million. Starting from now, he will launch a competition, because he wants to see, comparing CO Dojin and the joint heroes from various countries, exactly which side closes more rifts. At this moment, Kang Yanpyo received a message from President Lopez. Seeing this, he was greatly satisfied that the President Lopez has finally made a decision. His subordinate on the side reported that rumors about the death of the S-rank heroes have been spreading and making everyone uneasy, but Kang Yanpyo felt like 10 million was still a small amount considering the manpower that will be provided, but it also meant that once would be easier. It was reported to them that there was only one team, and that they were going to deploy all at once. However, Kang Yanpyo was pissed off that he might get teamed up with me. It turns out that my name wasn't on the list at all. Kang Yanpyo read the list himself and saw that Hyun Juyeon and Jong Inju were absent as well. Seeing this, Kang Yanpyo couldn't comprehend what was happening. At this time, another 50 million was transferred to my account. This confirms that Country B was paying me properly. Hyun Juyeon speculated that the payments for my contributions were too much, hence the Hero Association gathered another team in response. So, the Hero Association isn't so stupid. I see. Hearing this, Hyun Juyeon was surprised that I was okay with this kind of situation. However, it's because with the previous payments being settled, money was no longer a problem, and that from now on, there was something more important that I must do. Just as the Brazilian Association intended, the competition between both sides brought fast results. Because of this, the association had to keep up with the reports. At 1500 hours, Rift A035 was closed by our group. At 1710, Rift C012 has been closed by the Hero Alliance team. At 2150, Rift A037 was closed, and it was me who cleared it all by myself. And so, several days passed, and the association looked tired from overtime. By this time, the Dark Mana rifts are being closed quickly, but the other rifts were also being neglected. Agents were monitoring those places 24 hours a day with sensors and equipment constantly on standby in case something happens. However, at the final hour, the final red dot marking the last Dark Mana rift, it had actually finally disappeared. Seeing this, the agents still couldn't believe it. The combined efforts of me and the other heroes finally accomplished our mission.